Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Invincible podcast, probably the best superhero podcast in the universe. This is a show where friends talk all things Invincible, a comic book and animated series created by Robert Kirkman, Corey Walker, and Ryan Ottley. I am one of your hosts, Ryan. Joining me today is Bill.
Hi, everyone.
And TJ.
Oh, hello.
Sweet one riding down the banister.
It's been a while since I've done a sweet one. Had to sneak that in there.
That's right.
Something down the banister? What was that?
Don't ask questions, Bill.
Have you not seen the commercials?
No,
yet?
you keep sending it and we don't watch it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. We go by many names. Not only are we the Oblivion Song podcast, which is out now. You should be catching up on Oblivion Song because we've got new episodes of that show out as it hurdles towards its finale with 5 issues left. But we're also Circle Guy News, but we'll bring that up a little bit later. If you want to email us to be a part of the show, you can email us at theinvinciblepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, theinvinciblepodcast.com, all that good stuff. We are a spoiler-filled podcast. If you have just gotten into Invincible, if you were introduced to the show or you just started reading the comic, just want to put that out there because there's still a lot of new readers out there, and we don't want to spoil it for you. So just right here, front and center, we do spoil both the show and the comic. So be aware. But check out our new reader episodes if you're starting the comic and you want to read along with someone who's never read it before. Other than that, guys, how have you been? I've been
good. I broke my
You did.
my thumb in my hand.
I feel like that's been a common thing that we bring up at the top of the show, how you started skateboarding.
Yeah, and this is how it ended. Yeah. So, not ended. No, it's just a minor injury.
Yeah.
So, but that's what I've been up to.
TJ, how's work going?
Things work. We got a biannually. Is that how that works? 2 times a year we shut down for a week, and that's coming up. So I'm kind of looking forward to that for like a kind of a mini vacation.
That's in 2 weeks,
that's
right?
Exciting.
That's in 2 weeks, right?
Yes.
That's cool.
Yes.
We have a video that we should film sometime soon that we've been wanting to do for the podcast. We've talked about it, but the idea came out right before COVID, and we just obviously haven't been able to do it. So maybe we'll get some stuff done, especially while TJ's on vacation, and I might have some more time off coming up, and we'll see.
Sweet.
Oliver climbed up too high, and now he's scared to get down. So now I have to go and let him
go
down.
Ahead. Like climbed up a curtain, or like
is latched onto the ceiling.
Yeah, he's just gonna. I'm going to start off with our Invincible news. Pretty light this episode, but still some things worth bringing up. Obviously, Maven over on YouTube, the animation studio that helped out with Invincible, has been putting up more videos of the, kind of before and after the key animation. There's also Skybound X starting, which will be starting the week this episode goes live. So I think the first issue is July 7th. Really looking forward to those. I know the third one, is it? Skybound X number 3, I believe. Anyways, it's Science Dog. We're continuing the Oblivion Song issue 25 cliffhanger of Science Dog. More Corey Walker. Very excited to read that. I feel like, we've been following this character for so long. Invincible 25 he appeared in, and we've been, catching up with him. I feel like every couple of years we'll get like an issue.
He reappeared in Oblivion Song 25.
That's right. So excited for that, as well as the Ryan Ottley Walking Dead alternate universe type thing. So of course, great to see more Ryan Ottley as well. But speaking of Science Dog, I wanted to give a shout out to @Dan1 over on Twitter, because he did something incredible since we had the last done an episode. And so if you go check out his Twitter page, Bill, you just saw it recently for the first time. How far down did you have to scroll when you went to his Twitter page?
Like 2 thumb scrolls, not even. Like it was a pinned tweet, I think.
Good.
But yeah, you showed me. I was fucking shocked. Like I think the word that I used to describe it was, I was like, holy shit, this is quality.
Yeah,
like it is it's like legit. Like it is a legit digital comic.
So he
awesome.
made it's like some 9-10 page Seance Dog comic book about like the origin of Seance Dog. It's great. It's like really good. I loved it.
It actually first popped up on, I believe, the Invincifan's page, which I think is Invincipals now. I think they changed it. And then Murad, who reached out to us before, actually sent it to us on Facebook. So, yeah, it's really cool. The art, I mean, he did everything.
He did great. It's great.
Awesome.
It's incredible. It's fucking incredible. Like I'm astounded. It's awesome.
I feel like we're so high on it. We probably should have read it right before and actually like talked about it more. But this is already going to be a long episode. But go check it out, read it, and we're excited to talk more Science Dog next time. Because we'll talk about Science Dog and Skybound X next episode. Cool. The last thing we want to bring up before getting to our main topic here is Radiant Black issue 5.
little surprise.
So the secret is out. That was a fun little surprise that we got to work with Kyle Higgins and appear inside the comic book and work with him on writing the dialogue for our alternate universe counterparts in
our debuts.
Yes,
first appearances.
Yes.
And you can use the word work very loosely because it was a lot of fun, like collaborating
just like
with them,
chatting. Basically.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk more about that on our live stream that we haven't recorded yet. But when this episode goes live, we've already recorded it. So we're hoping to have that over on our YouTube page. Go check that out. That is a live stream with Kyle Higgins where we talk presumably all about how that happened and what it was like. So that'll be really fun.
And like if I mean, so that was issue 5 that we showed up in.
Yeah.
Everybody that listens to our podcast should probably already be reading Radiant Black, but if you're not, don't start there. Like, go back, start reading it at issue 1, and catch up.
It was great.
There we go.
Another thing worth mentioning is we got to see, and it's been publicly revealed, the second printing for that issue that we appear in, and it's an homage to the Invincible Flying at Conquest page that Ryan Ottley drew during the Conquest fight, and
it's perfect. I mean, the rubble turning into ice, like, it's awesome.
Yeah.
How
the amount of detail and the homage, like Marcelo did such a fucking awesome job.
Marcelo Costa.
Yeah.
Yep. It's great.
He's
so
awesome.
More on that if you guys want to hear about it over on our YouTube page. But obviously, shout out to Kyle and the whole Radiant Black team for that. That was such a surreal experience, and it's been a lot of fun, kind of surprising a lot of our listeners with that and seeing people's reactions to having no idea. Which, by the way, shout out to the Radiant Black podcast. Holy crap! Like they said some really really wonderful things, and they have been putting on a really great show. So if you're reading Radiant Black, go check out their show as well. They've been doing a great job.
Check them out. Check out their Discord, or the Radiant Black Discord, where if you're a fan of Radiant Black, it's the perfect place to go to chat with other fans.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's just on that again lightly, like, it was very humbling for them to mention us and what they had talked about us, but like their show in general kind of makes me jealous that they get a new comic to review
and like the theories and everything.
Yeah, and they do such an awesome. Yeah, I miss it. It's like, and I'm hungry for it. Yeah. And the way that they discuss the comic and go through page by page, I love it. I love the format that they do, and it makes me kind of be like, man, I wish we fucking.
I mean, we did it like that. We did do that.
Yeah, I know, but it's just great going back and and listening to a new podcast. Yeah. That kind of makes me reminisce about like how exciting it was. So yeah, give them a listen. The Radiant Black podcast too. Like, get out ground floor. Now's the time to do it.
It's good stuff, man. Now, before we get to our main topic, we do have a handful of listener letters that I'd like to go over. I'll kick it off with one from Jacob Goodhart. He says, Dear Invincible Podcast, I'm happy to say that after waiting months, I finally have the complete series of Invincible, and I'm reading through it as I can only describe it as satisfaction. To me, it's proof of what talented writers and artists can do with independent comics. I can't wait for Season 2 and Angstrom to show up. You guys aren't the only ones surprised by how to pronounce his name. After some thought, I think I have the perfect casting for Thrag in my head with Ron Perlman. He's done evil characters before, and I think he can nail the nuance that Thrag has with him being calm and logical one minute to completely enraged the next. My question for you is this. What do you think Mark would do with his life if he never got his powers? He obviously wants to help people, so I could maybe see him go into law enforcement or some sort, but later on, I could also see him try humanitarian efforts. Here's to Invincible, without a doubt, the best complete superhero comic in the universe. Jacob Goodhart. P.S. I actually saw Marvel Team Up at my local comic shop store, but it was more expensive than the compendiums. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, those prices, man.
You should have bought it. Did you buy
prices are a little outrageous right now, which, they're
a little spiked.
Yeah, that's what happens. What do you guys think Mark would do had he not gotten his powers? He was in high school, working at Burger Mart.
I don't. That's a great question. I feel like I'd have to ponder that a little bit longer. Yeah. Like I like the idea of like humanitarian because he does like his instinct is to help people and to like just not waver with what's right. Mm-hmm.
His dad is still like a superhero though. Like going off the fact that Omni-Man doesn't just take over the world.
Yeah, true.
I feel like I like the, law enforcement type thing. I feel like he would want to do something like for example, I'm assuming he's asking, he's waiting for his powers, and they just never come. I think living a life expecting to be a superhero eventually, I feel like, and then the powers never coming, he'd probably still want to do something similar. So I like the law enforcement.
Do you think that he would still become a superhero? Just a powerless superhero, like a Batman.
I could see maybe him working alongside at the Pentagon or with Art or something like that. Maybe.
Oh yeah, that would be kind of cool.
Sidekick.
Yeah,
Sky High.
Sidekick.
Very nice. Also, Ron Perlman. What's interesting is when you said Ron Perlman, I was like, wasn't he Damien Darkblood? But that's Clancy Brown, and in my head, Clancy Brown and Ron Perlman are interchangeable. But I think Ron Perlman's would be
in Final
awesome.
Space, right? He plays the dad.
He's Hellboy. Yeah.
Is he?
And he plays the dad.
Well, I'm just thinking of a much calmer tone character, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Bill or TJ, you have the next one?
Yeah, I can take the next one here. Oh, TJ, did you want to?
Oh, no, if I can.
Oh, yeah, I will go. Hello, friends. I'm a first-time writer, relatively new fan to the podcast, and works that are Invincible. I first started with the show to the podcast, and now I'm currently reading issue 91. Whoa. That's a really interesting, that he did the show before he did the comic and then us in between. Yeah. I got myself the compendiums. They are cool but awkward to hold and read sometimes.
Absolutely, they are.
Agree with that. The hardcovers is the best way to go.
Yep.
As the subject suggests, I'm wanting to discuss Dinosaurus. Here's one of my favorites so far, and I found an interesting bit of dialogue in the comics. I'm sure we all remember finding out how Monster Girl's curse was constructing her body anew every transformation. In issue 91, Dinosaurus states that his transformations do the same thing. I'm sure this has been addressed, but I thought my thoughts would be amusing, so I shared. Currently thinking of how crazy this could get is blowing my mind. Take care, guys. Your friend, Harry.
So I looked back at issue 91 just to see what he says and what that was all about. This is, just for context, this is right after Thrag just completely messes him up. And he transforms back into his human form. And then it takes him a while to transform back into the dinosaur form. Mm-hmm. But once he does, he states that it takes him a while. He was really messed up, and he is rebuilt anew, basically healed during that time, and comes back at full, strength or whatever. Similar to how Monster Girl would do that.
So is he saying that there's a relation between Monster Girl and Dinosaurus?
I don't know if he's saying there's a relation,
or just in terms of how their powers kind of
how
work.
Powerful they are, and how crazy that can get with, the amount of damage they could take versus, just healing and coming back perfectly fine.
Yeah, it. Honestly, it feels like something that was borrowed, that they because Monster Girl, I don't ever remember that being like a thing with Monster Girl where they were like, oh, transform and it heals. It was obviously a thing in Dinosaurus when fucking Thrag like ripped his jaw open and he couldn't even talk. His claws were torn up, and he talked about specifically how he heals. Amanda, I don't think ever mentioned how that was like part of her powers in the show.
In the show, that's the thing. In the show,
that's what I'm saying. I think they borrowed that idea from Dinosaurus and put it in the show for Amanda.
Yeah, I don't remember that being. I don't know. You're right. I can't remember a specific point.
I'm a Monster Girl fan, and I don't think that has ever been.
Yeah.
Maybe like, there's like something out there that's just cursing everybody.
In fact.
Maybe it's that like green thing.
When Robot
infecting children.
When Robot blasted her out of the airlock and she was in space, they were doing surgery on her brain as in monster form, meaning that she couldn't. Obviously, she would have healed, but
interesting.
So I feel like they again borrowed that idea from Dinosaurs in the comics.
Yeah. It's also interesting to think that, I guess, because Dinosaurus died when Invincible killed him, that he didn't revert back to human form and heal. As opposed to when Thrag messed him up, he reverted before dying. And here we are. We're picking apart the Kirkman things. Does that remind you of something else? Wolfman.
Oh yeah, Wolfman all day.
That's literally what Wolfman does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a huge part of Wolfman's training when he was training with the Elder Brood, and he like he was like, don't transform, see how long you can wait.
And then transforming back and healing and then going back like quickly and then being healed. Might be time. Oh, it's been so long since I've read Wolfman. It's so good.
It's always time.
It's always time. Wolfman time. All right, TJ, what you got?
Oh, okay. We got one from Rajarshi Das, which I'm probably butchering that, but if that's his real name, Rajarshi Das, that's a fucking badass name. Like, don't fuck with Rajarshi Das.
Damn it, see, now you messed it up.
Damn. Well, edit. The Invincible podcast. I watched the Invincible show and was inspired to read the full Invincible comic, and I loved it. It was a huge emotional roller coaster. However, now that I'm finished reading all 3 compendiums, I'm eager for even more Invincible content. I haven't read many comics before this. Then I discovered your podcast and immediately became a fan of it. You really do a great job. Could you please tell me any other comics like Invincible, excluding the spin-offs and tie-ins, any other resources for Invincible stuff like merch, other superhero books, etc.? Basically, more Invincible or related content. Eagerly awaiting your response. You have earned a supporter. Keep up the good work. Sincerely yours.
Awesome.
So,
apart from the spin-offs, I mean, I think that we should just get them out of the way. Wolfman, Tech Jacket, Invincible Universe,
apart from the spin-offs
Guardian of the Globe.
Yeah.
Apart from the spin-offs and tie-ins.
Those are the most important. Yeah. Like, if you want something that feels Invincible-like, those are the comics to read.
And we get this question a lot, so I'm glad he asked. And we can, we've got clearly a lot of new listeners, a lot of new people new to Invincible. So it's exciting that we get to give some recommendations. I think towards the top of our list is Saga.
Other comics like Invincible.
Saga's hard because it's very out there, and you just have to accept like the lore of it. And if you're not like used to reading a comic book, I feel like that's harder. It's fucking fantastic.
I just mean characters and world building and the scope. And if you want to get lost into another comic book that isn't necessarily superhero but has like depth, Saga is one of my favorite comic books of all time.
Tonally as well, I think that something easy to read and really fucking like love and the characters especially. Why the Last Man?
I still need to read that.
Dude, Why the Last Man is very good. It's very easy to read. The main character is very likable in like his tone, and I think that's an excellent one. So my vote for you next would be Why the Last Man.
Mm-hmm. It's very, like he said, like Invincible though, and I loved Why the Last Man, but it's nothing like Invincible. The easy answer is we already talked about it. Radiant Black. Yeah. It's Radiant Black.
I mean, if you're looking for something that is a long run thing already and has a lot under its belt, I mean, if you want to jump on the beginning, and absolutely Radiant Black.
I think Descender is incredible. I think that's always something that it has action in it, and it has the emotion that you get from Invincible. It's extremely emotional. I'm gonna say, like, if you find a writer that you like, that's, I think, most important. Not only look at some of Kirkman's other works, whether that be Oblivion Song or Firepower, both really great stuff. Have you read Walking Dead yet? But like, I really like Daniel Warren Johnson. I really like Donny Cates. Like, find a writer whose voice you really like, and just explore what other things they have going for them. And those are a couple of the other ones that I really like right now. If you go Donny Cates,
you got a lot. You got a lot there.
Pick up Redneck. Start with Redneck. It's so good.
That's also on my list.
So good.
Jesus.
Redneck's good too, yeah. So I'm just trying to think, like, tonally,
something is killing the children.
Not tonally like Invincible, but that's a good one.
I think it's like, it's just, I know. I think we're just throwing shit out there though now.
Yeah.
If you want something tonally like Invincible, I mean, it's Robert Kirkman, but Robert Kirkman, closest thing would be, I think, Firepower.
I was gonna say Firepower. I'm behind on, but it's got
the emotional stuff in there, and it's got really awesome action. Fight scenes.
All right, next up. This is from Robin Love. Hello, I'm a new Invincible fan and listener. Invincible has become yet another way for my dad and I to geek out about something together. Recently, I've been reading Invincible to catch up, and I finally got to the introduction of Oliver, and made my dad read it. His reaction to the last page of issue 26 was, "Are you kidding me? Invincible truly is a superhero story for all parents." Anyways, I had a headcanon/theory I'd like your opinions on. In these panels, and they show 2 panels from Brit's comic book. In my interpretation as an LGBTQ fan, was that Donald had some form of more than platonic attraction to Brit. Now, in one panel, it's Brit saying, let me pull up the email because it has it listed in there. In one panel, it's Brit saying, "Don't die on me." And Donald says, "Do we kiss now?" And then Brit says, "Okay, now you can die." And then in another appearance, Invincible shows up to Brit and says, "Hey, you're Brit, right? Donald has a picture of you in his wallet." And Donald says, "Whatever, I've got this. Leave now." So going back to the email, could Donald possibly be bisexual? I understand that he gets back together with his wife, but that wouldn't necessarily erase his attraction to men. I just think it's an interesting detail that adds to Donald's character. Keep up the great work, Robin Love. Go for it.
That's a really cool take on that, and I think, like, I mean, you could be right, you could be wrong. There's no right or wrong answer there, and I think that that's a really cool take on that. Now I kind of am tempted to, like, go back and reread it with that mindset. That's really cool.
I think that is a great headcanon. I'm absolutely on board with that. Part of me feels like it was just mid-2000s humor that they thought was funny, like some of the other stuff that didn't age well in Invincible. But I'd rather it be, your headcanon. So that's my headcanon now.
Yeah. When I originally read it, I remember thinking that it felt very like Agent Coulson geeking out over Captain America, like very much like that. Like, "Oh, I have all your baseball cards," and like,
there's a photo of you in his wallet,
that kind of thing. But I think Donald could Brit's. I understand why he has an attraction towards him if he does, because strong jawline and indestructible. What's not to love?
That's right. All right, Bill, you're up next.
Yeah, I'll go next here. So I have one from Sammy. Hello, the Invincible podcast. My name is Sammy, and I first started listening to your podcast after the first 3 episodes of the show dropped and was starving for more content. After hearing you guys gush about the comic and myself being impatient, I binged the entire series in a couple of weeks. I got to experience the shock of episode 1 blind and enjoy episode 8 with knowledge going in.
Interesting.
That's awesome. Yeah. So many different
interpretations,
time frames. Yeah. The only downside is every other superhero story feels less interesting now. Truth. The first Conquest fight was by far the craziest experience I had reading a comic. Reading the comic digitally, I would only see single panels at a time. I was frightened to progress each panel. I added the added element of Eve being involved made my tenseness skyrocket. My question for you guys is, what moment in the series made you pause? or made you nervous to continue, if any did? Second place would also be Robot ripping off Eve's leg and killing Cecil. The shows are amazing, and I'm glad I found this amazing series that had been hidden from me for so long. Regards, Sammy. In terms of like shock element,
I've got
God,
one.
there's so many.
Go for it.
When I feel like I was in disbelief, and TJ, I know you were, when Angstrom was decapitated by Robot.
Dude.
Like that entire part and
into Robot just going through all the heroes, reading month to month during that, and like even the page to page, it's like you're anticipating the next issue so badly, and a month goes by, you finally get it, and then you don't want to turn the page. It was crazy.
There were just parts, and I read them digitally too. Like I think I was definitely reading 100% digital by then, and I love going panel to panel because you're shocked every time, not just page turns. But yeah, that like when he was just going through and killing like all of the Guardians and all the heroes, you're like, and he would be having a conversation with one of them. You're like, oh my God, is this it? Are they gonna fucking die? And 90% was yes, but that was mine. TJ, what about you?
Oddly enough, the first thing that came to mind was Invincible killing, in quotes, Angstrom the first time.
The Debbie fight
at the end of issue 33, I believe. Because just like, especially back then, knowing what superheroes killing people actually meant, like it doesn't happen. And for him to have done that was shocking to me the first time I read it.
Yeah, when we read that,
plus that issue was fucking
when we read that,
incredible.
geez, now oh my God, has it been 20 years?
No. The comic's been out.
Since we've read it.
Since we've read Invincible. I mean, wasn't it shortly after?
It was after high school.
Shortly after high school, though, right?
I started reading it in
2008.
2008. Yep.
Okay.
2008 was when I started reading it.
So for us, it would have been 2010, maybe.
Oh no, we read it the same year he did. He just read it first.
I didn't.
Really?
I didn't. TJ pestered me about it forever. Yeah, you guys. I was the last to read Invincible out of the three of us.
Either way, it's been a long time, and the violence and superhero thing was not a common thing. So yeah, TJ, that was shocking at the time. That was very shocking at the time.
Yeah, especially consequences.
Yeah.
Like there was no way that guy was coming back. Like and he was a main staple and Invincible for a long time, and to like have that happen. The same thing Kirkman did with Rick when he got his hand cut off. I was like, how the fuck did he just do that? Like, this is the main character, and he mutilated him.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, TJ, you got one?
Yes. Oliver from Liverpool, England.
Oi.
Oh,
Oi. Oi. He says, oi. Hello, mate. Put another shrimp on the barbie.
That's something. There's something there. Yeah, maybe.
That may be Australian. I don't know. He says, "Hi guys, new listener here. I've been watching Invincible the week the season finale, and I have since become obsessed and have bought all 3 compendiums and read through them all. My question to you is, do you think the show will be released on Blu-ray? I like buying physical copies of my favorite films and shows. Amazon released The Boys on Blu-ray, which makes me think hopefully they might do the same with Invincible.
1000%.
Keep up the great work. Oliver from Liverpool, England.
0%, Bill. So Oliver got me excited when he said The Boys was released, because I was like, I thought Amazon didn't release their shows on Blu-ray. Turns out they do in the UK.
In England?
Yes, in the UK they're released on Blu-ray.
Oliver, we're going to need some of those shipped on over.
So yes, I do not think so. They have never released, as far as I know, a series, especially a successful one, on physical media. In fact, recently, what was it? HBO? No, Disney Plus was like, yeah, we're never releasing physical copies of our MCU shows. Like they want to keep those to get people to subscribe.
Subscriptions.
So there's no incentive in their eyes to do it. I mean, maybe 15 years from now or something, when they want to make some extra money off of something that everybody has access to and doesn't watch anymore. But I don't think we'll see a time in the next several years, unless something dramatically changes to the market or whatever. But there's no incentive for them to release it physical, and that kills me. I want it on my shelf. Okay,
I have an idea, and I think that they should take me seriously here because it's a fucking great idea. What if you can only buy physical copies if you have a subscription?
You mean it's
like, what if it's like a special, like they only printed like 1,000 and you have to get it through your Amazon Prime account,
or just Amazon, like, or the only place to get it is Amazon Prime. I mean, it is literally them. Like, I know they don't. They're the only distributor. I feel like they could do that. Not only do we have a subscription, but I would buy that 100 times over again. Like that. What a collection. To add to your collection. Rather you pay for it monthly, and then maybe watch other shows,
but
which
I still
then get
will.
more ads.
Phil, how would you watch Invincible if you didn't have Amazon Prime, or if you didn't have Prime Video?
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, so you better keep paying us.
I hate to say this, but like
that's so why it makes sense.
Digital, anything that's online that's digital is so easy to pirate.
Yeah.
Like I don't do it, so I don't know how to do like torrents and shit. But anybody can fucking do it. But
my take is this: keep it obviously digital, and that's the ease. If you want to watch this easily, you're gonna watch it this way. Make a really nice art book, or not even art book, but like a steel book or something. Put a bunch of cool special features on there that are exclusive to the Blu-ray. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. Just like, even if it's just a collection of all the special features and not even the episodes, I want some sort of physical media from this show. You know, like it feels weird that it's not tangible in any way. It just exists. And so if they ever decided to shut down their streaming service, but again, then they would probably put it on physical. So,
right.
So yes, that does it for listener letters, except this is a big Invincifan episode. One literally just came in while we were talking from Luke. So I'm going to read this real quick. Luke Lizald says, hello, Ryan, Bill, and TJ, a.k.a. the sweet one.
It's the sweet one.
Based on your expert analysis, can you tell me why Shrinking Ray did not stay shrunk and crawl into Battle Beast's inner ear? She could have leveled the playing field. Based on her tryout, this strategy is the reason she was asked to join the team in the first place. The moment Battle Beast says, there is no honor in killing insects, Shrinking Ray could have paid off that line of dialogue by bringing him to his knees.
Oh, man. That would have been awesome.
My advice to Shrinking Ray is, you're doing something that works. Don't change it. You will win a majority of your battles. If I was Robot and giving out commands, I'd say, Shrinking Ray, find the open ear. Anyway, TJ, I love your idea to have Ed Harris be the voice of Cecil. Absolutely brilliant. If Ed was cast, it would be the sweet one. Best, Luke.
Yo, a sweet one would make a great voice actor.
Yeah. We're just gonna let this go. We're just not gonna mention how I am the Ed Harris fan.
Like I said, I thought he'd be very good as Cecil.
Everybody.
All right, so it's like the Ant-Man theory. You know what I mean? Like, why not just shrink real small, get in someone's? I don't know. Would he bat her away before she can even get in there and mess her up? Is it worth the risk of her getting that close to him? Is his inner ear strong enough that he would have been able to withstand it, or he would just smash her? Or I don't know. Maybe it was too risky.
Well, so he's an alien, right? Would you agree that he's an alien?
He is from another planet.
He's obviously an alien. So he's defined as an alien. So that would mean that she's not quite sure
his physiology
about
his physiology.
Not only his physiology, but he's a furred animal. So he has fleas on him of some kind, ticks, fleas of alien nature, right? And if she's shrunken down small, she will have to get through his alien fleas as well, potentially. And she doesn't want to deal with that. She doesn't know what's going on in his fur. So
yeah, maybe it was just risk. She weighed the options and it was too risky. You don't.
I mean, he could take her and squash her, and then she'd be done. Yeah. So I don't know.
I mean, does she have super strength?
No.
So if she were to go into his ear, it's not like she would then get bigger, because that would kill her if he's too strong. So,
I mean, well, if the science works with Ant-Man the same way, like where he has the same mass in that small amount of space, technically she's like 150 60 pounds, 70 pounds.
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those things. All right. We are now going to go to our main topic of the show, which is a few chats with some Invincible fans. Now, ever since the show was announced, and especially during the lead up to the end of the comic, we were doing things where we had what we called fan spotlights, where we had Invincible fans from around the world come onto the show, give us their thoughts on the comic book and their predictions for the end of the series and their hopes for, I don't know, maybe an animated series in the future. And then later when we knew the animated series was coming out, talking to Invincible fans was always exciting to hear what they wanted to see most and what they were looking forward to and hopes and dreams. And since the show has come out, we haven't gotten a chance to catch up with a lot of those listeners and a lot of those Invincible fans.
Fan spotlights. That was back in the day.
Man. So it feels good to kind of, finally bring the fans back on, the fans of Invincible back on onto the show to hear their thoughts. The community is so important to us, and we hope you guys are, enjoy these chats as well. We also wanted to do something a little different. We wanted to shake up the dynamic a little bit, so we thought maybe doing them as one-on-ones would be fun. So each of us sat down with a different Invincible fan to talk about various things, and TJ, you sat down with our friend Devin Barry.
Yeah, we had a good conversation, and we talked about Invincible, obviously. We talked about our shared love for Angstrom. We talked about the exciting Ryan Ottley news coming out at the end of the year. We talked about a lot of good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, it's a good thing. You almost didn't get to talk about the Ryan Ottley stuff because for some reason the recording stopped. I don't know why.
So we were going to do like one-on-ones, but then we found out, not going to get into all that crap, but it was easier just to record the way the three of us do, which Ryan records it through his computer, so in the system that he has on his computer. So Ryan was recording, but he wasn't there like while Devin and I were talking.
Wasn't there to see the warnings.
And then literally Devin and I like said goodbye, and then we continued to talk after we said goodbye to the podcast. We continued to talk, and then maybe like 3 minutes, Ryan, you just your computer just disappeared, and it's because your computer died.
Yeah.
So we just barely finished. Luckily.
That was close.
Oh my God.
Close. I spoke with Vince from Let's Talk Invincible over on Twitter. We had a great chat, and she always has some awesome perspective into the relationships of a lot of these characters that she's so passionate about. So it was awesome getting to talk with her about that. And again, when it comes to these characters, dreaming about what's going to happen with the potential for a new series where maybe we see Tara or Marky. It was just a fun chat with her. And then Bill, you just earlier before we started this recording, you got to sit down with Wyatt Layne.
Yeah, the Wyatt Layne. So we talked a lot about his fame. I was a little starstruck with the time that I spent with him. So no, it was great talking to Wyatt. I mean, Wyatt's a big contributor to literally everything that we do. Like he's fourth chair. Like he honestly really is. So it was just great to talk to him about it since we haven't had a chance to, and I mean, we talked to him live, like as it was happening, he'd message Ryan and once via Twitter. So it was nice to finally just sit down and be like, bro,
But
so,
I'm also
fun.
very excited because I haven't listened to either of your interviews. You guys haven't listened to the other two interviews. It's kind of cool because
I think it's cool that we get to listen to an episode of the Invincible podcast that we haven't heard a big portion of it.
So we're looking forward to it. So those three one-on-ones are coming up right now, back to back, and then we'll be back at the end to outro the episode. And if they're, like I said, obviously this episode's a little long. There'll be some timestamps and some, time codes in the description if you'd like to take your time listening through them or listen to them, spread them out, and bounce around. All right, bye.
All right. And we're here. Boom. We're doing the damn thing. I'm here with Devin Barry. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How have you been?
I have been good. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a rough couple years now. So getting back into the swing of things finally. So hopefully we can see each other at a con again soon. That'd be great.
Yeah, dude. I am itching to get back to the cons, to be honest. So speaking of which, you and I, we met through Invincible. Or me and Ryan met you through Invincible. You were a listener of the podcast, and we met at a con. Ryan and I went up to Boston Comic Con 4 years ago in 2017.
Has it been that long?
It has.
Oh my
goodness. We were only a year into the podcast at that time. It's crazy to think back.
I know the comic was still going on. The comic was. Oh my goodness! It's been a while.
It was a great time. We saw Ottley there. We got a bunch of great commissions, and we actually did an interview with you back then and had you on the podcast once before. So, but for the people that haven't seen that, you actually have ties to. I can see it in the amazing backdrop behind you. A very popular comic shop called Jetpack Comics. Can you just kind of tell people what that is and how you're associated with it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jetpack Comics is a small local comic shop based out of here in Rochester, New Hampshire. We delve in pretty much anything. We do Marvel, DC, pretty much every single small publisher that you can imagine. We do tons of stuff, online sales, tons of stuff. In-store sales. As far as smaller comic shops go, we're definitely one of the more well-known ones for sure. But yeah, it's honestly just a blast working here. My coworkers are great. The shop owner here is wonderful. We're small in size but big in heart, So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Jetpack has a really awesome social media presence too. They're everywhere they need to be on Twitter. So definitely follow Jetpack Comics.
Yes, yeah. It's at Jetpack Comics at Twitter. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram. We have Snapchat. We got it all. So yeah,
you guys tend to get a lot of really good like comic book celebrities there too, which is really cool.
Yeah, we've had. Just in the last 10 years alone, we've had Mark Millar. We've had Steve Levine. Rich Woodall, who's a local artist that comes here all the time. He's just did an exclusive cover for the new Masters of the Universe book that's coming out, and it's stunning, very stunning cover. So if you haven't looked at that, look at that. Yeah.
Cool. So it's just us.
Yeah.
The guys aren't here. It's just you and me. So we can talk shit about Bill the entire time. But before we get to that, Invincible Season 1, what are your thoughts? And I'm excited to know because I'm excited to catch up because we haven't gotten a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, we haven't. You know me. I'm not. I feel like you're the same way. I'm not much of a typer. I'd rather this. This is what I got going on. But yeah. Wow. I actually have a story about the first 3 episodes, if you wouldn't mind me.
Oh shit.
So like I said, I'm kind of in between places right now, and so when the first 3 episodes dropped, the internet at my current apartment, it wasn't working. It was down, and I rushed home to go watch it, and it was down, and I was pulling my hair out, cursing and screaming at the gods, just are you kidding me? Out of all nights the internet gives out tonight. So I drove my ass all the way to the local McDonald's with my laptop here, and I connected to the Wi-Fi, and I watched the first 3 episodes cuddled up in my car with a blanket, watching the first 3 episodes on my laptop. So
that is truly Die Hard. That's awesome.
I did it. Hey, but yeah,
sweet.
So from the first episode, the last 10 minutes of the first episode, just grabbing. And that's what you hear everybody say. My thoughts, there's so much to unpack here. So I guess pick out a favorite episode maybe.
Sure.
It would probably either have to be the last episode, of course, or I really like the Titan episode. What was that, 6?
5?
Might
have been
5 or
6.
6.
I don't know, dude. You would think I would do a podcast about this, but but yeah, the Titan episode was incredible. Battle Beast, all of that was just
the whole dynamic of Titan and Invincible and like the back and forth, like showing like poverty versus, you know, high class or middle class rather, just like everything that episode unpacked was like just wow. I mean, from the opening scene with Titan, like just that brutal violence is great. I mean, the use of the music "Make Way for the King" was just so perfect. I mean, you can definitely tell that every aspect of the show was cared for. Like very hands-on, everybody putting their opinions in, and like how are we going to make this work the best way that we can? And it shows they did a great job. So
yeah, it all came together perfectly.
Mm-hmm. And like you guys always say on the podcast, like us people who have read the comics for years, we were still on the edge of our seat, you know, like what's going to happen? I mean, like with episode 7, like with Eve, like we thought like Eve might be there when him and Omni-Man had that interaction. We're like we're experiencing the story for the first time, even though we've read it countless times. You know what I mean? So
that was the best part of it too. Like even Kirkman, when he was on the show, he said that we wrote this comic for fans of the comic that have read it. So there's always that back and forth of, should I read the comic? I don't want to ruin it. My opinion is always, yes, you should read the comic. Buy some comics at Jetpack Comics if you're in the area, maybe.
Yes, that would be awesome. Yeah, if you're up in the New England area, we'd love to see you. And let me just tell you, at this point now, our entire staff has read the comic and loves the comic. So, so we're always looking for people to come in and talk about Invincible. So feel free to stop on by and talk about it with us. So from comic to the show, there were a lot of like character changes or like character upgrades. Which one would you say is like the most prevalent to you or your favorite? I mean, I feel like there's only one answer here, right? Amber? It's got to be.
A lot of people say Debbie.
Well, I think Debbie's Debbie was just as caring in the comic books. I think that they just gave her more of a spotlight in the show. Yeah. But I mean, Kirkman and Walker in the note section of the trades and the hardcovers and whatnot, like they constantly talked to. I mean, I think it was Eric Larson that did the intro to the first trade, and even he was like, I would read a comic book based off of Debbie. Like there was definitely love for Debbie throughout the entire comic. She's the best character in Invincible, and like this is coming from a longtime fan of Invincible. Like Angstrom Levy will always be my favorite, but as far as just like pure heart, like good core characters, Debbie is the I don't know, like the glue that keeps everything together. She's so wonderful. She's just very, very well written character. I mean, in just everything about the show. I mean, like what they did with her too, just like having her be more informed as to what's going on in this world. And I really loved the change of like focusing on like Debbie being like, Nolan, like if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have any piece of humanity. Like I'm what gave you the humanity. Like it's not like they changed anything. It's that they just focused more on things that I don't know are more relatable. Kirkman, man, he's so good at that. He
is. So Amber.
Yeah, Amber is definitely the one that has changed the most, but definitely for the better. And that's not to take away from her in the comics. I love her in the comics. She gets a lot of hate in the comics and a lot of hate in the show. Like it depends on what side you're on. But
I agree. Like her in the show, in my opinion, they both stand alone great, but she's awesome in the show.
Oh, immensely better.
She's so good.
Immensely better. Like the whole point of this comic, right, is to take normal tropes and spin them on their head. I mean, that's the selling point of this book. And it confuses me as to why people were so mad about the I've known for months now, because it's like that's taking a superhero trope and spinning it on. It's like that's what Invincible is about here. Like I loved it. I love that change because I mean, as we know in the comics, spoiler alert here, that she is kind of ditzy, thinking he's a drug dealer, and we go through that whole escapade, and then when he finally tells her, she's like, whoa, mind blown. And it's like, no, she's with him all the time. Like she would kind of figure it out, especially in this world where superheroes are kind of everywhere. And
she's so much smarter than the Amber in the comics too. Mm-hmm. So it would make sense that she would kind of figure it out.
Yep.
So what else? So you and I share a love for a character who hasn't made it yet in the show, but will be in next season, hopefully. Angstrom, what are your thoughts on season 2? What you want to see from Angstrom, or just season 2 in general?
All right, so season 2 is probably going to be the best season. Nah, that's probably not true. I mean, I hope that every season is better than the next. I mean, what fan doesn't hope for that? But yeah, Angstrom. I don't. It's everything about Angstrom. I don't know if I can't pick it like one thing. I just like the entire arc that he goes through, like just from like his first interaction with Invincible, of like him being a genuinely nice person, like telling the Maulers like, no, don't kill him. I won't have this achievement of mine be like stained with the blood of this child. And then like him completely forgetting that and then going batshit crazy. But I mean, the Invincible War, like he's very like Joker-esque. Like he's not buff. He thinks, and he's like, how can I torment this character? How can I torment the hero? And I tend to really like characters like that. So season 2, I'm hoping that and Kirkman, if you're listening right now, I'll take royalties for this. But
Kevin
I'm hoping
Barry to voice the character of Angstrom Levy.
Oh God, no. But I'm hoping that the opening sequence, the very first thing that we see in season 2, the very first opening thing is an alternate universe where we see Mark and Nolan standing over Earth, being evil, taking over Earth. Because how awesome would that be to have the last thing that we see, like finish high school, I guess, and like we see this good Mark, and then the very first thing we see in next season is evil Mark, and the viewer's gonna be like, what? Like, what, did I miss something last season? Like, how awesome would that be to segue into that? Like just bam, right in your face.
It would be such a perfect way to open it too, because I mean, especially after that finale, Invincible has kind of stamped itself as being like fucking crazy. And you can open it up with that same, velocity, I guess. Like you can start with Invincible fucking people up and just blood and just craziness, and New York City, just, people running for their lives. And I think that would be a perfect way to do it. And for people who haven't read the comics that love the show, are like just confused, like what the hell is going on? Just like we were when we read the comics, because I think it was issue 16 that opened up something like that. It was around there.
I think it was Angstrom's
like
first appearance. So, and that is definitely 16. So it's got to be. Yeah.
So, dude, I agree that would be the perfect way to open it up. So, and I feel like if they don't go with that, I'm sure it's going to be just as good, because they really know what they're doing. It's true, man. So
like for years after they announced the movie and the show, we've been like being like, oh, you have to do this, and there's things that we said that they have to do in the first season that they didn't do, and you know what, hey man, I'm not complaining. So just keep the content coming, man. It's great. So
another thing I'm looking forward to in season 2 is Damian Darkblood.
Yes, I mean, as longtime fans of the book, we know about the sketch section in the back where they talk about things, and Kirkman always, like, that's something we've always talked about as friends and whatnot. Like, what if he did actually go to hell and whatnot? And so I'm really excited to see him play in that sandbox that he hasn't touched in before. I mean, the thing with what's the creepy ghost thing at the beginning of episode 4 there.
I don't remember his name, but yes.
I'm so excited for that to randomly come back. It's gonna
because that's something we don't know about from the comic. He was never in the comic.
The only thing that's better than Invincible is New Invincible. Like, give me more. Give me,
Yes.
It's in great hands. So I'm not too worried. I'm not, especially if season 1 is gonna be a tell sign for what this franchise could be. So.
Yeah, definitely Damian Darkblood. I like that we're going to get more of his story, because like in the comic, it ends with him just kind of being like walking up and being like asking somebody like questions about Omni-Man, and they're like laughing at him like, oh, Omni-Man, he's gone. He's like, we know that it was Omni-Man who killed the Guardians the whole time. And he's just like, oh, okay, and just kind of walks away, and we never see him again. So now we get that other piece. Hopefully.
What was the last time we saw him? Because did we not see him in issue 100 when they showed like every character? We had to have, right? He had to have been in that.
I'm sure you're right.
He had to have been. He had to have been.
I'm sure he's there.
I'll have to look back tonight. I'll have to flip through the trades. But I mean, you're right. Like they didn't really do much with him. Like he seemed so important, in the first 3-4 trades, and then just like kind of fart in the wind disappeared. Yeah. So, but I mean, Clancy Brown, like,
dude,
I'm a huge fan of Lost, and he was great in that. I mean, he's Mr. Krabs. He's everybody. He's been in everything. So, I mean, the guy's just super talented. So I'd love to see him do more stuff. He was my pick for Conquest, but hey, Damon Darkblood's fine. So
hey, okay, all right. So speaking of voice actors and kind of getting back to Angstrom, do you have anybody in mind for him?
For the live action, I always said Idris Elba. I just think that would be perfect. I don't know. I don't know if Idris Elba is a voice actor. I don't know if he is. I don't know if he's ever done it. I know it's a very different vein, but I really don't have it. Is it Jeffrey Wright, the guy who's in
Boardwalk
Westworld?
Empire?
Yep. Westworld.
Yep.
Yeah, he's like just what a great voice, like very monotone, baritone, that kind of. I think he would be great.
He would be awesome. Yeah. What do you think about this nonsense that Kirkman is spewing into the world about how apparently Angstrom's last name is pronounced Levy? Are you buying into this shit? Do you believe it?
I don't know. It would be just like Kirkman to lie to us and and make us think one thing, and then he's like, no, it's this other thing. So that's a very Kirkman thing to do. But
we're not buying it. I'm not buying it.
I mean, this is coming from the group of guys who always say guarding. What did you say? Guardians of the Galaxy instead of Guardians of the Globe all the time. So
I feel like we still probably slip on that. Or there were so.
The sequids was really funny too, because I said sequids for so many years, and then whatever episode he was it 100? Yeah, when he came on, he was like, "No, it's sequids." I was like,
"Yeah, dude."
What?
It's funny. When the three of us went to New York Comic Con a few years back, and we met Kirkman. We had him on episode 50, so he had listened to the show, and he just ripped us apart. He's like, "You're saying this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong," and we tried to like take notes, but there were so many of them that we just kind of like lost track of all the shit that we're saying wrong. So we're probably
Thetis was the other one. Thetis,
I don't even know how we got that, because it doesn't even look anything like Thaddeus. But,
well, eventually when you just get something in your head for so long, like even when you're fast reading it, just skimming through the comics, it's like, oh, this is what I'm seeing. Yeah. So
and we must have talked about it a lot too, because I mean, or either that or Ryan, Bill, and I all read it the same exact way, which is just insane. But yeah, season 2 is going to be incredible. I cannot wait for that. What other things about season 1 kind of stuck out to you? Any characters or moments?
Honestly, Machine Head. I know this is a popular one that people are saying, but I never thought that Machine Head would be one of my favorite characters, and I hope we get more of him. I'm like begging to get more of him. Like I hope we like get more storylines than we even did in the comic with him, because that Italian maple, first time I watched that, I was like on the floor. Like the first time it was funny because I was like, oh, okay, like this, like he's just being like bougie and it's his fancy wood, right? But then like the second time when they bust through the doors, like on the floor, just like instantaneously on the floor, like calling back to that. Just, oh my goodness, the show is not afraid to like be lighthearted, even though it's like so serious, and it's just a very great balance. God, listen to me talking up the show. I haven't said a single bad thing about it yet.
Oh, I feel like I don't know. I feel like we try to remain neutral and say the good and the bad, but there really isn't much bad to talk about, which is insane because we pick apart everything. And I mean, it was exactly what we wanted, And going back to what you said about Machine Head and the Italian maple, we found out, we did an interview with the head director, who said that Jeffrey Donovan, who played the voice of Machine Head, actually was in the voice studio and said, "Can I go back to the Italian leather thing when they break down the door?" Like he was the one that actually put that in there, which I love too.
That's so awesome. Like letting the voice actors have a little bit of control over it and being like, "Yeah, let's bring this back." And
it ended up being one of the funniest parts of the episode.
Like honestly, one of the funniest landing jokes in the season. I think I was on the floor. Like I said, it was so funny. Like when they busted through the door, instantaneously just like this biggest smile on my face. And it's little stuff like that just gets peppered in. It makes it so great. I mean, that's what made the comic great. Just the little things that you see in the background and I'm glad that, I wasn't really worried with, the three creators coming back to, be hands-on with it. So it's just very much in their personality to, pepper that kind of stuff in. So, and I'm just glad it hasn't gone away. It was a great season. So,
yeah. And I mean, like us, you have been a diehard Invincible fan for years before the show came out. What is it like now that Invincible is kind of everywhere? Like, how many people have you introduced the show to?
More than I can count. I mean, my best friend in the entire world, I begged him for years to read this comic, right? And after I think episode 5, he bought the first compendium and then read it in like 2 days, and then came here to Jetpack and bought 2 and 3 and blew through both of those in a weekend.
That's
2 and
crazy.
3. Like man, it's like you are blowing through the greatest comic books that have ever been written in like a matter of hours. Like slow down.
Yeah, that's what actually Ottley tweeted. Somebody who said like, "Oh yeah, I read the whole series in like 2 days." He's like, "It took us 15 years to make this." So funny. But it's so like it's addicting once you get into it. I was the same way when I first started reading it. Like I tell stories about how I was broke when I first started reading Invincible. I was living on my own. I was completely broke, and
I love this story.
I had to like make a choice on like ramen noodles for the week or getting like the next trade paperback, getting the next trade paperback and eating ramen noodles for a week, or actually living normally. And I chose the ramen noodles and the
hey, ramen fills the stomach, right? That's all you need.
It does. Yeah. So anybody else that you introduced? Did your mom watch the show?
Not yet, but funny enough, the friend that I was talking about, my best friend, his mom watched it, and so hashtag Invincible for moms. Yes. She got way too attached to Red Rush early on, and then her heart broke. But she did stick through and watch all 8 episodes, and I was actually talking to her about it today, and we were talking about like just like Nolan and. Like how like you almost sympathize with him because he has lived for so long. So you kind of understand his mentality of like losing his humanity and losing, the ideal of like life being sacred and whatnot. And we were just, going off about that. But I want to go back to the question that you asked of like how weird is it for me? Like what's different? And like Invincible is a meme now. Like I can't stress that enough. I open my phone, and I don't know if it's just because it's targeted ads or whatnot, because all I do is look at Invincible shit. But like every time I open my phone, it's Think Mark Think or what's the other one that's like blowing up right now? The look at what they need to mimic a fraction of our power memes, and those ones are just getting better and better as they go along. But I can't scroll through my phone even 60 seconds without hitting an Invincible meme. And like when we think about the comic book as like long diehard fans, right? Like what's like one of the things that we like instantly come to? It's the Think Mark after what would you have after 500 years line. And like that huge impactful moment that we have loved for so many years is a meme. And like, it's just completely weird to me. It was because it was that impactful moment and they captured it so perfectly. Like I even tell the story about when I watched it, I know that line so well. And even then I was like choking up, you know what I mean? It's the way that Steven, oh my God, like, can we just like praise be to Steven Yeun? Holy fucking shit. But oh my goodness, like I don't know like what he was doing. I think you guys even talked about this, but I don't know what he was doing, if he was gargling water or something like that. But like his like tears in my eyes, like I was like just so powerful, so powerful. Never thought that we would ever see that on screen, you know? And it's a great time to be an Invincible fan.
They went to some dark places, even for like Amazon Prime, even for it being like a subscription service. Like, it got pretty dark, especially in the finale. So, and I mean, that's what Invincible is, though. That's why, honestly, it even got darker than the comic. I mean, the train scene was an addition, and it was the biggest scene in probably the series. It's the one that's most talked about, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's whenever you go on Invincifans or Twitter, it's literally just people commenting under posts like, what about the train scene, or making subway jokes. And so, yeah, I would say, yeah, you're probably right there. I mean, it is that question of like, did they go too far? I don't know, because like they've done some pretty intense stuff with characters before and still redeem them. So I still think that Nolan can be redeemed. But it's funny because I just listened to your interview with Jeff Allen this morning. It was great, by the way. But you guys, I remember you guys talking about it this morning about, well, you recorded it 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, but I listened to it this morning. I want it to be fresh in my head. So I listened to it, and
as long as you listen to it.
Oh, I listen to every episode, so you don't have to worry about that. I do get around to it. But yeah, so when you guys were talking about, you know, like can he be redeemed? Did it go too far? You know, I love that conversation. Like that's probably the number one thing talked about, like in the store for people who have read the comic book. You know, it's people are not shying away from like, how are they going to redeem Nolan after this? I mean, like, whenever I think about like how are they going to redeem Nolan, like whatever, like what plays in my head is that scene of him like after the subway crashes and then he like just like lands on that person like reaching for his daughter and like I'm like how are they going to do that? But
that's the part I always think about is that moment. So brutal. But I mean, I'm sure it'll happen. I mean, I kind of like the fact that, I mean, I'm kind of hoping for a little controversy. Like I want fans who haven't read the comic to be like, no, I can't forgive him. I don't want to forgive him. And I want that.
Liz and Brittany, like they never forgave Nolan. And I think that is valid. And I like that people never forgive Nolan because it really is not an easy thing to forgive. I mean, that's what makes fiction so great, right? Because we can take like human problems and put them in like inhumane ways, right? Like none of us have lived as long as Nolan Grayson. So like we none of us as humans could ever understand that. But like if we did live as long as Nolan Grayson, like maybe we would think like that. Like maybe humanity would be nothing to us. I mean, do we think about the ants that we step on the ground, you know? Like that's what humans are to Nolan. And I think that's just what makes the comic so great. So I don't know. I'm really excited to just talk to people about it. And I mean, Kirkman's great at writing stuff that people just want to never shut up about. So,
and it is crazy too, because there is more people to talk about it. I mean, we've been doing this podcast for 5 years, just kind of talking to each other, but now we've expanded that and we're still talking to the fans that have always been fans, but we're talking with like new people that haven't read the comic yet. And it's cool to get their perspective too. And it's, I mean, like, for example, I just went to like Barnes & Noble and they never had Invincible stuff there. Maybe like 1 or 2 trade paperbacks. Now they got all the compendiums, the hardcovers, everything is at Barnes & Noble. It's like, it's insane how like it really, I mean, another thing, like if I were to type Rexplode into like text messaging or like looking for a GIF, there was nothing there. But the day after all the first 3 episodes came out, there's tons of Rexplode. And Rexplode like was not like a big character in the comic. Like he was, but not like Invincible, you know what I mean? And he's everywhere, you know what I mean? Which is awesome because he's my favorite character.
Yeah, but, like back to the Machine Head thing. Like I never thought that Machine Head would be like a name that people would just drop randomly in a comic book shop. But like people come in and they're like, oh, how about that Machine Head character? And I'm like, okay, this is weird, but I'm down to talk about Machine Head, of course. You know, it's so weird. And the thing that's getting me giddy and so excited is like, what other characters are people just gonna like randomly fall in love with? Like, what about like the Elephant or Octoboss? Like
there's Octoboss all day.
We still haven't even. I mean, we did meet Elephant briefly. We heard him on the phone, and then saw Invincible flying away by his trunk, which was hilarious. But I mean, like small little characters. Like I'm so excited to see like where this goes. I mean, being such a longtime fan about it and just always looking for an excuse to talk about Invincible. I mean, now there's a million excuses to talk about Invincible with a million different people. So it's it's really fun. I'm just, yeah, it's great. So
yeah, and I mean, we're always here to talk about it, and we love talking to you about it. Appreciate you coming on the show again. And seriously, like, I mean, we played video games over the years here and there. We still keep in touch. But yeah, we'll definitely have you back sooner or later. I mean, season 2 is coming out.
Hey man, I'm so excited.
Dude, I cannot wait. It's going to be a little while. But it's going to be worth the wait.
No, my question. I have a question for you. Like,
sure.
I don't know if you guys have talked about this, because I mean, all the episodes kind of blend together when you listen to them all. But do you think that the live action show will come out alongside this animated show, or do you think that they might wait for it to be done? Like where do you think this live action is going to fall into play?
Ooh, that is a really good question. I hope that it comes out during the show, because I want the show to go like forever. And I don't want to wait, 6, 8, 10 more years for the live action.
I don't blame you. Yeah.
But so I'm gonna go with during the show.
All right.
What do you think?
I would think probably around the height of the show. I would imagine that would be where they would want to capitalize on a live action movie, like maybe like during maybe right after the Conquest season or before the Conquest season, like at its peak would probably be where you would want to drop a live action movie and just capitalize on all that merch. So.
Yeah, dude, for sure. I mean, I'm hoping that the success of just the first season is kind of pushing Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg to really like hit the script and, whatever version of script they're on or wherever they are in the process, and just like, let's get this thing going, because I'm ready.
Yeah. I'm just ready for more Invincible. Like, bring the comic back, man. I don't like just keep it coming. Just keep it coming, man. Dude.
Hey, Cory Walker's out there doing something. I don't know what he's doing, but he's doing something.
I have been looking at his blog, so I'm hoping. Yeah. I'm hoping.
Yeah, his blog. If you don't know where it is, it's in the bio of his Twitter. So go check that out. He's got a lot of cool stuff on there.
One more thing. There's so much to talk about.
Hit me.
Ottley on Hulk. Like, how fucking awesome is that? I mean, I remember back in when we were back in Boston Comic-Con, this was like before Thanos had even come out, because I was talking to you guys about Donny Cates, the writer of God Country, coming on and writing a Thanos book, and it hadn't even come out yet, and now here we are, and Donny Cates.
Honestly, Donny Cates has become like, he's like up there with Kirkman with me. Like he's an incredible writer. There's nothing that I've read of his that I thought was just mediocre or less.
Yep.
So
everything. He hits the nail on the head on everything.
Hulk has never been one of my go-tos. Like, I'm not even really a Marvel guy, but I mean, Donny Cates writing anything with Ottley's pencil on it. Come on.
I know,
that's all I need.
I can't remember what interview it was, but when there was one interview where Kirkman was like asked, like, what do you think about Ottley on Spider-Man? He was like, oh, Nick Spencer is not utilizing him to his fullest abilities. And I was like, and I always said, I was like, in the shop, I was like, who would utilize him to his fullest abilities? Donny fucking Cates. Donny fucking Cates would utilize Ryan Ottley's penciling. And look at where we are now.
And the Hulk is the perfect thing for him too. Like,
oh my goodness.
It's going to be incredible.
I know. I can't wait. All right. I'm keeping you here too long. So
nah, man, I love talking about it. There's so many good things coming out, so many Invincible things, so many Invincible related things. I mean, that's why we do the podcast. We just can't stop talking about it, but I loved having you, man. I loved, catching up with you. It's been a while. So
yeah, it's always a pleasure.
Love talking Invincible. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Later,
dude.
Hey everybody, I'm here with Vince from Let's Talk Invincible over on Twitter. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been a while since someone called me Let's Talk Invincible, but
I mean, well, wait. Yeah, it's InvincibleInck. So it's still Let's Talk.
That's all I do.
So, how long did it take for you to shovel out your driveway this morning?
Oh my God. Okay.
It was snowing there, like what, last week?
It was like a week before June, and it was not a little bit of snow either. I was pissed off. I was so mad.
It's crazy because I think of us as, like Buffalo, New York area, like an area that is known for getting a good amount of snow and for being cold and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, June, and you're posting pictures of a couple feet of snow outside your window, and I can't believe it. Like, you're crazy.
No, I hate it. I hate it so much.
Oh my gosh. So we were just talking before we started, and we were talking a little bit about people's reactions to Invincible for the first time, for watching the show. And, we obviously had you on the podcast. We were really excited about the upcoming show, and you and I talked a lot. And we
were so wrong. We were so wrong.
Not just that, like I feel like I haven't had a good chance to talk to you about everything. It felt like, that whirlwind of the show coming out and everything like that. So I'm really excited to hear thoughts and what happened, like, what it was like when you were watching the show leading up to it and everything like that. Yeah. So we're gonna, it might be easier to just start at the beginning a little bit. Like, so what was it like when you were watching the show? How did you watch the show? Because for a while there, it was, you weren't able to watch it Thursdays, right?
Yeah, usually I would be working or out or like with my parents or something or other. So some nights I watched it Thursday, but like usually it was Friday morning. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
So that was the turning point when I finally turned off like push notifications on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm not getting Twitter notifications on my phone anymore. No more. I wasn't
watching the trailers. I wasn't watching even the like official Invincibles like, what was it, their like bingo card and stuff like that for the first few episodes. I was like, I don't want to know, because that's how I saw like the sandwich in space thing. I was like, I don't want to know. I was trying to avoid as much as I could, but
yeah, I did look at that stuff, but I didn't find that super spoilery. I was like, oh, okay, I'll see this from the comic or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was hard.
Mm-hmm. So you, let's see, man, didn't even talk to you about this. Like Nolan killing the Guardians at the end of episode 1. That's always like one of the first things I want to talk to about with people that know the comics. Ultimately happy with that choice. First impression, were you happy with it? Because for us it was really shocking and a complete twist of what we're used to.
I think I said this while I was watching it, because I watched them all with Benny. Mm-hmm. But it made sense for them to, it wasn't that weird of a change for them to fight back, because you and I, we've read the book and we saw Reboot and we saw that they can pull their own against Nolan, at least for a little while.
Yeah.
And that was such a cool fight. And it was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And they just brought that to the beginning. And I loved that. I was like, oh my God. And obviously it was more gruesome.
Yeah.
My mom watched it. Like I watched it with Benny the first time.
You just said something about that like today or something, and I wanted to bring that up. Your mom watched it, so tell me about that.
She was like, I'm not going to watch your stupid superhero cartoon. I'm not going to watch it. And then the day it came out, she was like, are you going to come over and watch it with me and Brett? Like my brother who's read it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. So I watched it with Benny, and then I drove over to their house. And then she watched it, and she was like, this is really cute. And she was laughing when they were getting killed. Like,
oh my God.
Like maniacal laughing. Like she's like, oh my God, and laughing. And I'm like staring at her. Like,
yeah.
Are you okay?
This isn't the reaction.
Yeah, this isn't the reaction
you're supposed to be having.
Yeah.
And so what did
she had? Yeah, my youngest siblings are in like elementary school, and they were there, and I'm like, get them out of here. And she's like, this looks fine. And I'm like, no, get them
Trust
out
me.
of here.
Yeah. Did she just recently finish it?
Yeah, she finished it like a week. Well, she finished it like a week after the first episode came out. It was kind of late for her, but I wasn't worried about spoilers because she never goes on Twitter except to bug me.
Yeah,
you know.
But ultimately, she liked it.
Oh yeah, she did.
That's fun.
She had some funny comments. She was like, I don't know why they shade the crotches so much. And I'm like, why are you looking at the character's
That was something
crotches?
else I was seeing online. People were talking about the shading and stuff like that. It made it look like they wet themselves sometimes and everything.
Really?
I never thought
that was standard shading for like a DC animated movie or something or other.
Yes, It did kind of remind me of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as the like, you brought up Reboot, and I was actually just flipping through it the other day, and in Reboot, he, Mark tells Nolan, he's like, hey, I know what you're gonna do. You're gonna go kill the Guardians. And he says it like this. He says, the first thing you're gonna do when you find out that, I get powers, is you're gonna go kill the Guardians, because you view them as a threat and that they might even be able to stop you. And I was like, look at that. It's funny, right? Like rereading that after watching the show, like later Kirkman might have known that like they were more powerful than the first, because a lot of people bring up, issue 7 or whatever, he just kills him in one panel and it's over and done with. He doesn't even break a sweat. He's just standing there. But in the show, he's like, it beat him, they almost,
like he passes out. Like, yeah.
I love
and
that.
That's actually canon. Like they can do that. The
That's
only
great.
big difference was that now they have more of a reason to suspect him, I guess, and that's that changed the whole show.
Which
like,
completely
Cecil knows, and
Debbie.
Well, Cecil kind of knew too. Like,
you're right.
in the
He
comic.
did kind of know, but he wasn't introduced until after the fight.
Yeah.
So seeing
Exactly.
him figuring it out, Damien Darkblood, and then obviously Debbie, who's completely
Right?
different in the show, for the better, right? Did you?
Oh yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Like she was already like my favorite, but they made her so much better.
I know. Can you imagine this Debbie with Oliver?
I
mean,
keep
come on.
thinking about it. That's got to be season 2. That's all I want.
I think it's going to be second half of season 2. We'll see.
Yeah.
I
And
don't
there's
know.
going to be delicious discourse about Oliver, and I can't wait. People are going to be thinking such a brat, and I'm like, yes.
Yep. Yeah.
can.
What I was going to bring up, you mentioned something else earlier before we started, and you kind of slipped it in there. You think the show is better than the first, 15 issues or so, 12 issues?
Yes, for that. I mean, the comic as a whole is not fair to compare. I think the comic as a whole is better because they haven't gotten to the best shit yet.
Yeah.
They haven't gotten to the Beltramite War, I won't get into it. But like for that beginning part, yes, I think it's better.
Yeah, the way they handled the
100%.
The truth of Nolan, what he's doing there, marketing powers, the family drama, the Guardians, all of that kind of stuff. I agree, and it's weird to think that. Can you imagine if we would have, if you can go back in time and tell yourself that? No, just like, hey, it's going to be better. Like, what? No.
Yeah, I was hoping for like at least like not a panel to panel adaptation, but like at least as good.
Yeah. No, I agree. Let's see. What are some of the other? What's that?
But no, they made it better. Yeah.
What are some of the other changes or standouts from it?
For the first episode,
or even in general.
Yeah, in general, Rex. It's funny how they made some characters more likable.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned Debbie and Amber, but some of them are like less likable. And I'm like,
do you think Rex is less likable?
Yeah, like in the first, he's more of a dick.
Yes.
And I'm like, I know I love you. Why?
Yeah. I wonder how much they're going to change that. I wonder how much more, like if they're going to have him do that turn. Like they kind of teased at it a little bit with him apologizing to Eve or not apologizing to Eve. But yeah, I really am curious as to how much his character will change, but they did do a really good job of making him a dick.
Yeah. And I like that that Monster Girl and Rex friendship. Like they have a few moments in the comics, but Rex kind of doesn't really have friends after shit hits the fan with Kate.
Yeah.
And it's cute.
You're right.
Yeah.
I really did like that a lot. I mean, everything with Amanda and then later Rudy, the whole robot story weaved through this season was really good too. I really liked how they moved that storyline up. I mean, a lot of the storylines, Titan, the Sequids, still feels weird to say Sequids, not Sequids.
Right?
Yeah.
Before watching the episode, I was so excited. I'm like, how are they going to pronounce it? I'm finally going to know. Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked the way they condensed, some of those storylines, even the Flaxens, into one episode instead of them being the 3 parts. All that was handled really, really well with the overarching story of Nolan and what he's doing. So, I don't know.
And they got rid of heckin' Mr. Hiles or whatever. Thank God. Like,
Yeah. I do love that Easter egg though. Him being on the TV and the news report is just a great way of still it's still being there, but we don't need to see that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a cool. Like, I need to rewatch this. Like, I've reread the comic because there's so many little Easter eggs. Like, I was pausing every time there was a sign. I'm like, stop. Like,
yeah, right.
Just read everything on here.
Yep. Anything? What's something you're looking forward to most in season 2? Now
Oliver.
that we've Oliver. Yes. No, you're right. Duh. Do you think that's going to be? I mean,
I think so. Yeah. Maybe it'll end like that. I don't want to speculate too much, but maybe that'll be like the ending reveal.
Yeah.
Or maybe it'll like end with Nolan getting carted off to space prison.
Mm-hmm.
Read my books or whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I can't. I have a hard time because you want the Nolan reveal to be a big deal, but you also know that there's going to be casting. They're going to be promoting that J.K. Simmons returns because he's such a big name. So I feel like because of that, they might have it sooner in the series because it's like it's already out there. It's already known. People are going to be every week going, okay, when is he coming? When is he coming? And if you hold that to the finale, then it's almost a little deceptive and a little bit of a letdown for people. So I'm really curious because, I could totally see them holding it to the end. But
and I know they tease Conquest, but I feel like that's a bit too soon.
Oh, yeah. And I think the only reason why they showed him was because it was a flashback. I think,
and I'm glad they did.
Yeah.
But people are like, I can't wait to see Conquest in season 2. And I'm like, I don't know. I could be wrong. I was very wrong about a lot of things.
What did you think that this first season would have? Was it structured differently than you expected? The fight sooner.
I thought it was gonna go all the way to. I thought they were gonna cut a lot more than they did, and I thought that it was gonna go all the way to like around issue 50. Actually.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And they did kind of go. I think they did take some stuff from the 40s. I think with like the Martians and whatever. But obviously, it ended with the Nolan arc. So
yeah, it is interesting how, like, you see 50, and that's one thing that I feel like a lot of people gloss over or we don't talk about enough, because it's like, okay, we got Conquest coming up or Angstrom Levy coming up and all these things, and it's like, we got the whole Cecil thing. Like that should be a big deal. Issue 50 was a big deal.
No, that one blew my mind. Like, yeah.
I mean, and we got a lot of hints towards things going in that direction with him hiring villains and the Reaniman thing at the end there and the White Room. We saw the White Room.
Exactly. I was waiting for them to show it, and I was so.
Yeah.
Benny and I probably sounded like crazy people because just yelling things that make no sense, like the White Room, like that means nothing to anybody except for us. Yep.
Yeah.
You and me and everyone who's read it. Like.
I think Bill has a story of someone they were watching it with someone who had read the books and someone who didn't, and they're like, oh, and it was like, what's the big idea? You know what I mean?
Right. Like.
Yep. I want to bring up the fact that we can't escape Invincible. We talked a little bit about this
we can't.
before we started, but there was a while there where the loudest voices on Twitter were probably myself and you tweeting about Invincible, and now it's like everyone else is talking about it.
There's so much fan art. I'm like so much bookmarking all of it.
Like and it's just weird to bring up, but like the memification of Invincible and how so the think mark thing became a meme, and it's like surely that will go away in a week, but then not only did it not, but now it's been replaced by another one, by the fraction of their power, or of our power or whatever meme, like. Yep. And this is like, are we going on a couple months since the finale, and a new meme has spawned from this episode?
I know. And you can't escape it? I used to be able to count the amount of Invincible memes, like, on my hand, the ones that I knew about.
Yeah.
But no, it's crazy. It's funny because it's such an emotional moment, but...
it's another funny thing to think about, like, go travel back in time to our previous selves and be like, yeah, so not only is the show going to be better than the comic in many ways, but it's going to be really well received. But also, that the most emotional moment, like I'd Still Have You, Dad, is going to be like memed to hell and just become a joke kind of, but in an okay way. It's still going to work. It'll still be an emotional scene, but it's also going to be like completely thrown out to the internet.
I mean, J.K. Simmons has just a funny voice. I guess it was inevitable. Not funny, but like, I always think of, the Spider-Man scene.
Oh yeah.
When he's laughing his head off.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, there is.
And you've seen like the recreations of that one where it's Omni-Man doing the laugh and everything.
I've seen that.
Oh, it's so good. I can't believe this, like how it's come to this, and how much has changed. Any other things you want to talk about, Invincible related?
Who the heck were those guys at the beginning of episode 1? Who like the security guards?
Yeah.
I'm so baffled about that. I'm like, they didn't die. I thought that they were going to die.
Yes.
And then the sun showed up here and there.
Yeah. Yeah, they talk about their, them going to, they're going on their trip to England, and then, they get attacked by the Maulers at the White House, and then it's showing the trip to England, and then it's showing the son, I think it was Matt, in front of, or in the Immortal's grave.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know some theories have been thrown around that I don't believe for a second. I think that it's just meant to be like a human component, like this is this is showing normal life. You can't just start the show with, superheroes attacking, like there needs to be the grounded human relationship. This is, after all, a show at its core about family, and especially a father and a son. And here we have this father and his son, and they're having a little bit of a, some relationship trouble, but it's gotten better and how much it's grown. But also a vehicle to show a couple things, all three things, like they're getting caught up in the middle every time.
I'm curious if they're going to keep showing up in season 2. And also there's that Damien Darkblood stuff that they added in. And
right?
I'm like, what's going on there?
Yeah. So we know that Kirkman wanted to do some hell stuff.
Yeah.
And so that seems like it's, the door has been opened, if you will, to kind of explore that stuff. Really curious because then the question comes, the more interesting question than whether or not he'll have them go down to hell is why? Like, what do they need this, superpower detective for? Like, what could happen that they need him and they need to go get him, which is a really cool story. Like, that would be a really fun fanfic. I'm thinking about like what mystery would need to be solved, for him to need to come back out. I don't know. And then what's that relationship with Cecil?
Cecil's so much fun in the show. Like, I like him a lot in the show. I know he's stinky deep down.
Yeah.
They already hinted at it. Mm-hmm. But like, even though I say that I hate Cecil, I really don't. Like, I was sad when he died, Like, I think he's cool.
Yeah. No, it's a great character. It's a great character. Is there any? Are there any characters you weren't crazy about in the show adaptation?
Besides Rex, well, I get it. I don't hate Rex in the adaptation. I just think they made him more of an asshole. I don't know.
Yeah.
If they made anyone, they made Nolan, certainly. This is not a bad thing, but they made Nolan more evil or an asshole or whatever.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about when we were talking before we started. Like, what are they going to do? What are they going to do?
I know,
you know the comic as well as anybody. Like,
yeah, they have, like, he's the heart of the whole story almost, But like,
yeah, like you literally posted today's. I know, right?
And they added all that stuff with him kind of being, I wouldn't say abusive, but like kind of manipulative with Debbie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, they really like are making me want to hate him, and I don't want to hate Nolan. I love him.
I know. I mean, we're recording on Father's Day, and you posted a great panel from.
Oh yeah, I always have to repost that one.
142.
2.
Sounds right.
That's at the same time.
It sounds right.
I think so.
But anyways, like that right there in a nutshell. You need to get to that point. They're like everything that Mark becomes and why the end of the series makes sense is because of what happens in Nolan's journey. And that's fine. I think that, it can be done. I think they definitely made it a little bit harder on themselves.
Yep.
But it's, you also got to put yourself in the the shoes of someone reading the comic for the first time too, because nobody likes him the first time, especially like the new readers. When Liz and Brittany hated him, you're kind of supposed to, and it does take a really long time. It's almost 144 issues. By the way, it's 141. I just checked.
We were
just off.
We were close.
But yeah, it takes like over 100 issues. Like, so I see some people being like, "There's no way that I can't believe people forgive him in the book," and I'm like, "Well, you haven't read it. It's like over 100 issues. Like, it takes a long time."
Yeah, and it is interesting, and this is something we've thought about and brought up on the show. Like, Earth doesn't forgive him. He doesn't go back to Earth. He doesn't, he's not welcomed back. It's not like everybody's like, you know what?
No.
He's a good guy now.
They don't uncancel Nolan Grayson.
No. He's bad the whole, like what he did is never forgiven.
It's never forgiven. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's just like his family just kind of forgives each other.
Yeah.
Kind of. Like every once in a while, Mark I remember that moment when he like leaves Earth and they're having one last fight around. They land on the mountain and Mark kind of like brings up like how like, hey, you beat the shit out of me. Like that wasn't cool or something or other.
Wait, when
he's
was
like,
this?
You'll never let that go. And he's like and they're kind of like, oh, okay, we'll stop talking about this for now.
When was this?
I can't remember what he said. Something about like not being. I want to find that moment now. It's the issue when he leaves Earth.
Oh,
and
yes.
Mark has a low blow. Something about how he doesn't really trust him.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know what you're talking about. Shoot.
I think that's issue 116, 17.
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying. Yeah, like it's not. It's really interesting how those actions are never really like swept away. It is always like Kirkman knows that Earth's not going to accept him. Like there's the whole scene with Nolan coming back and Cecil being like, you can't be here. That you can't be seen. Like, and it's not like everything's just okay. So
you're gonna have to hang out on the moon.
yeah, and even that doesn't last long. So yeah, Battle Beast. Titan, that episode I absolutely loved. Really fleshing out characters like Titan, and that was really, really great.
That was cool. I always loved Titan. I don't know why. I just thought he looked cool in a suit. But now I'm like, oh yeah, hell yeah, he's a dad.
Yeah, right. It's crazy, man. And in one episode, they managed to make him so much better than just kind of like a mafia goon kind of dude. Let's see, what else? Any other things jumping out at you?
I almost want to like scrub through, but I know that we're trying to keep this short. But that monster fight that they added, that was fucking awesome.
That whole episode that you're referring to at 7 with Nolan.
What's its name?
Hail Mary.
Hail Mary, yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to say Bloody Mary, but I'm like, that's not right.
That's not it. I loved how I didn't catch it like the first couple of watches, but then somebody posted online that Mark tied up that monster. Like,
yeah,
it was a cool
He's
little
a good boy.
Yes, like he didn't like try and kill it. He didn't like fly through its head or anything like that. He like in the background you see that he used the telephone lines or whatever to tie up this monster. Meanwhile, his dad is cutting someone in half. Like it's just like a really cool, juxtaposition or whatever of him.
I can't wait to see his moral character just degenerate over the course.
What did you think of that? That's what I'll ask you about. Him saying "make me" and him like kind of showing some dark sides in this first season.
Yeah. Was that them teasing at this quote-unquote Viltrumite anger that the comic always goes on about?
Yes, I think so.
It's supposedly a thing. We don't see it a ton, though, but every once in a while it's like, oh, he has a temper. Like,
yeah. So, and I think, especially there's a time in the comics, especially with Eve and everything like that, and like how he can get a little, a little angry or
The amount of times he chokes out Cecil.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's just once or twice. Twice, I think.
Yeah. And the anger with Angstrom and like that kind of stuff. And then Robot referring to how they all, all versions of him have this.
Think about Angstrom. He's got to be in the second season.
Oh my God. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was because now, like Kirkman talked about, he's rewriting these early issues, knowing where these characters go. In the first several issues of Invincible, he didn't know that there would be other versions of Mark that all have this issue. So yeah, there's gonna be pieces of it sprinkled throughout. But yeah, oh my God, can you imagine Angstrom with the portals and all this kind of stuff? It's gonna be crazy.
I'm gonna lose my mind. Yeah.
And I mean the way 33 goes with Debbie and Oliver. I mean.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's funny because I forgive so many of the villains in Invincible for far worse things, but for some reason, even though I love Angstrom, I never quite forgive him. And it's just because, I'll admit, it's just because he hurt Oliver and Debbie. I'm like, no,
that seems
prejudiced against you now.
You know what's crazy? I'm thinking about how that could potentially be in the finale of season 2 or whenever. If it's a potential finale, having season 1 have, Mark's dad brutally beat him to near death on the face of a mountain, and then season 2 have Mark nearly brutally beat someone to death in a desert. You know what I mean? Like
switch.
That kind of thing where it's showing like what's happening to him or what's brewing inside him. That could be really cool.
You're like your dad.
Yeah. Ooh.
That'd be cool. And if it ends with him being beaten up like on Thrax or Mantia or what the fuck ever.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
I know. Thraxia, Mantia.
People are gonna make. Yeah.
Come on. But yeah.
People are gonna make so many jokes about like every season he ends up like on a hospital bed.
Yes, just beat up. I mean, I get it. Yes.
That's why I love it.
Yes, he always gets beat up. That's kind of the thing. That's kind of his thing. That's
his thing.
Yes, it's accept it. I know. Everybody's like, it was funny seeing the internet kind of like discover this, that he's like, oh, he's called Invincible, but he's constantly getting beat up. It's like,
it's funny. It's like you got the point.
You got it. Yeah, but I don't think.
God bless you.
I don't think they could do that though. They can't have season 2 finale be him beat up on a mountain. They can't.
Right?
I don't.
Like they could, but should they?
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, man.
Also, I found the line that I was talking about. Sorry, Nolan says, "I know you feel like I betrayed you," and then Mark is like, "Yes, you should be used to it by now."
Oh, you're
and
right.
Nolan's like.
Yeah.
So it's like, Nolan never really, he's not really redeemed, Yeah. He's just kind of, he's been indoctrinated. Like, give him a chance.
Yeah.
Here, have this meme Benny made.
What's this? Oh my gosh.
Nobody's going to be able to see it but you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And who's that? So we got in that flashback, we got this one.
Yeah, okay.
Go for it.
The eye patch lady.
Yes.
Nobody can see this but me. I should have waited until after this, but
no, it's all good. But no, during cool. Nolan's telling of the true Viltrum story, there's kind of like a general or so kind of talking to him. Crazy like mohawk eye patch. Mm-hmm. Cool character design.
Okay, I know that we're going like over your time, I think. But
it's okay. Go ahead.
The fact that Nolan mentioned his grandparents,
yes,
and the episode notes were like, "Hey, this is the first time his grandparents have ever been mentioned anywhere," and I'm like, "No, isn't Argyle his grandfather? Like, I swear to God, that's." And I'm like, "Are they changing that, or does he not know, or is Argyle more like a great grandpa because Viltrumites live forever, so like not forever, but like a long ass time."
All right.
So,
all right.
Or maybe you're gonna scrap that storyline.
You're gonna have to help me with this. Is Argyle related to him? Oh no, Argyle. Sorry, I'm thinking Thetis. I was like, Thetis isn't related to him. I was like, where?
No.
Okay, yes.
No, Argyle, that one
Thetis
dude
killed
dead.
Argyle. That's where my head was at. Yes.
Y'all always mix them up.
Yeah. You're right. I think,
or maybe that was just. I think I'm reading too much into this trivia moment.
No, I think because we thought about that, and I think the answer or the headcanon or whatever was that Argyle was like great distant like cousin grandfather. You know what I mean? Like he's bloodline, but he's not.
Do they ever say father, or do they just say you're part of his bloodline?
I think it's just bloodline, like hard, like no.
I have to reread to know for sure.
No relation. I guess you're just gonna have to reread the whole thing. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. They talk about his kids being kind of hidden, and that's
Argyles.
And yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that.
You don't? Okay, so they Thrag, I think it's when he's talking to Mark's comatose body.
Yeah.
He's saying something about how they lost the heirs, and the reason they didn't know where they were is because Argyle kept them hidden.
Oh.
Either because he was scared that they were gonna. This part of me had canning, I think, but that someone would target them, or else that they would target him.
Yeah. So that's interesting.
Drama.
That it could be Nolan's grandfather, but he doesn't know it because his parents were hidden away.
You've never seen a Viltrumite nuclear family. I want to know. Yeah, we know that they're assholes.
Yeah.
Yeah. To put it simply.
So then it makes you wonder why Nolan's parents or grandparents, whatever, chose to keep them hidden away, because like that's not really part of the Viltrumite way. So maybe there was something always like maybe Nolan was always
or
kind of.
Nolan had that nostalgic moment about his grandparents. Like he never even mentions his family in the comic.
That I like, because I feel like that's a seed of what humanity has done to him. Like this familial bond. It's like now he's thinking about his grandparents. Like that's not really a Viltrum thing to do. But
or his parents, Mark's grandparents, or I don't know. I have to rewatch the episode.
Yeah, you're right.
Same thing, but
it was his parents. You're right, because he says your grandparents.
Yes.
Crazy. Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously Debbie, like we were talking about the whole like humanity. I loved that they made that because of Debbie. Like not only was Debbie like a badass and like crazy smart and awesome in this show, but like she's the reason. Like somebody had to teach him.
She is in the comic too. I have an essay about it. But, like they made it more obvious.
But you're right. Like and how I never really thought it that as like I did. It wasn't as clear to me, and that's my own like fault for not thinking into it enough. But like somebody had to teach him, and you're right. It was always Debbie. Yeah. Like she was the one, you know, like he sees her when he's still in his Viltrumite garb early on, and like she was always there. And so like making it a moment and tying it to his reason to leave and everything is amazing.
I love that one panel in the book where she's stopping him from beating up like someone who's trying to mug her or something or other, like criminal. Yeah. Yeah. And that baseball scene they added, like, yes, they made Nolan so much more, you know, like over the top, I guess, but they also added that baseball scene, and god damn it, like that tugged.
I know. I mean, it worked. People like, you know, the train, like the train scene, like people talked about it, you know, it couldn't just be a little brutal. Like it had to be traumatic, and it had to be heavy, and for it to be that big of a switch that, why did he stop? Why did he fly away? So yeah, since they're improving on the comic, like if they're going to continue that trend, are they ever going to make Mark go to a therapist instead of just talking to Eve? Because there's so much worse shit that happens from Angstrom to, I'm not even going to get into it. The man needs some therapy. The poor guy. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what he adds, and what, you know, knowing the whole story now, where he's going to go, what Mark's going to go through, like what he's going to add throughout it. And I'm really fascinated by what where Eve's going to be in this show. You know, like I really want to see the way that, you know, they evolve her character similar to how they evolved Amber and Debbie. You know, a lot of her character just becomes focused on Mark, you know, and like she's with Mark, and there's not a whole lot else there for, you know, chunks of the comic, and I want to see what else they do with her, because that's really exciting, because she's an amazing character. I like that they hint at her past with Rex, and a subtle thing, but I like that she actually doesn't go to Africa. She goes somewhere in the woods or whatever, because one of the criticisms that I saw once about Invincible, and I kind of agree, was that it's kind of, this is an early 2000s book. They didn't mean it this way, but it is kind of white saviorist. Yes. Yeah. Kind of. But it's like she can still
But I like this. It's like she's still doing her shit. She's still helping the environment and whatever. It doesn't have to be, yeah.
Yeah, and
wherever she is. I think she's somewhere in the United States. Because Mark flies her.
Exactly. I took it as that she's still, somewhere nearby, but not directly close.
My American geography is kind of shit, but
I think it's cool though. But yeah, it's not like she's just hanging out in Africa helping Africa. Like she is helping everywhere around the world. She's just
around the world, exactly.
Anywhere. She's like checking the news, anything that's happening, she can go there, which makes way more sense than picking one specific spot. So, but those little changes. I do
hope that we see giraffes, though. Like, I do hope that we still see that scene with giraffes eating from.
Amber's still in the picture, the way this season ended. So I still think we're going to see Love Triangle, like, season 2. And again, that ties into Engstrom. And I loved that arc. I loved the house that she made in Africa. I loved the drafts.
Yeah.
That whole the conversation of him being around Eve and them talking about superheroism while Amber's there. Like this is. I'm really excited for what they're going to do with that because I did like that arc in the series.
Yeah, and no matter what happens, I hope that Amber sticks around, and I hope that William sticks around too. Because William is also so much better too.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to see them. I want them to hang out with Mark. I want them to like jumping way ahead. But if they get to Tara, I want them to be like aunts and uncles to Tara.
Yeah.
That'd be so cute.
That would be. I mean, helping with Oliver when he's a baby. Like they're going to be around for that. So, and they both.
I always think about the fact that Mark was more of a dad to Oliver than Nolan was because Nolan was indisposed in space prison or whatever.
Yeah.
And then when Mark disappeared for those 5 years, Oliver was more of a dad to Tara, and it just makes me cry.
Oh my God. Come on. Why'd you have to do that to everybody?
I know.
He's
such a good uncle. I love him.
That's such a great comparison. I love that. That's a good thing to end on because that's amazing. What is your Twitter handle so people can follow you?
It's InvincibleInck. It's INCK.
How did Robert Kirkman pronounce it?
Link or something.
That was so funny.
Listen.
It was good.
I think he was just like, just use your name. Like,
That's
fair enough.
All right. Well, this was fun catching you back up. We'll talk more later. Thank you for coming on.
It's nice to see you again.
You too.
All right, it's Bill and Wyatt Layne. I was lucky enough to have the guy who writes our music for the Invincible podcast, for the Oblivion Song podcast. Wyatt also wrote that really awesome track, that remix that everyone loved for the Machine Head for the show. So welcome to the podcast, Wyatt Layne.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. So what was it like when that blew up, when you worked on that remix for Machine Head and like Kirkman loved it and retweeted it?
That was so exciting. It was such a surreal, weird, like series of, even over like a few days of it, just like you said, Kirkman retweeting it. And then like it ended up in an article on menshealth.com or something like that. Like, because it was written about Invincible and my stuff was linked in there. It was such a weird, like, it was just constantly several days of me like taking my phone out, freaking out, and then like having to show my wife and being like, look what just happened. Like it was bizarre. It was such a weird thing too, that all came out of me and Ryan and I think Mitch Krasen on Twitter, like joking about it. And it came from even you mentioning on the podcast about how it almost sounded a little sing-songy when he's talking in the episode. Mm-hmm. And so I sat down, like we were joking about it on Twitter and how I was joking about how, it would be fun to put a beat behind it, just with no intention of actually like making it. And then on my jog that day, I was listening to Run the Jewels from the soundtrack of Invincible. And I'm like, you know what? I could probably do I'm going to play around with it when I get home. And then ended up making it and was just like laughing to myself. And showed it to my wife, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to post it, though. It's really silly. Like, it's such a weird reference to just this episode. And she's like, no, you should post it. You should post it. People will like that. And so everything after that, I was just like, oh, my God, I can't believe Kirkman tweeted about it and Ryan Ottley posted about it. Like, it was it was bizarre. Like the show, I was already on cloud nine just from the show being so great and being so excited about it, that like when that happened, it just felt crazy. It was so weird.
Well, I'm equal parts like relieved that you posted it, because it was so awesome, and it was so great for you to get the recognition that you deserve, because we've been listening to your music for years, since as long as we've been doing the podcast, and like I'm excited that, you know, your name is getting out there even further, with Kirkman being like, oh yeah, Wyatt Layne. But damn, did that fucking song get stuck in my head? Like, I know where your family lives. Fuck you, Wyatt.
even especially me having to like take the time where I was like chopping the audio out and edit it. I can't even really look at those scenes the same way, because I've spent so much time like analyzing like, oh, would this bit work? And then hearing it, of course, when people were sharing it and things like that, that episode does have like I have to try and not think about it whenever I'm watching any of the Machine Head stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you almost ruined it for yourself.
Almost.
Or enhanced it, I guess. But
yeah.
So the theme of these fan spotlights that we're doing is really just to kind of focus on the show and, you know, what your thoughts were and favorite parts and all that good stuff. So high level, I mean, everybody loved it. I don't know if you did, actually. Maybe you hated it. Maybe you're the one that hated it, even though you made a song about it. But so what were your thoughts? Like, you know, beginning to end, you know, high level overview. What'd you think?
It in so many, like I very much agree with all of your guys' opinions that you've shared over the weeks that it was coming out. But yeah, it was just in so many ways different than what I expected, but still better than what I expected. Like there were so many times where I was like, wow, I was so wrong when I was predicting this stuff. And then like, I'm so glad I was wrong about that. This is so exciting and it's so interesting. And like, it just was like, I can't imagine a better version of the first season of an animated series. And it has set such a good foundation for where it goes in the future that I can't wait to see what seasons 2 and 3 and hopefully 9 and 10 and 11 and however far we go.
What was awesome about it too is that Kirkman did with the show what he was able to accomplish with the comic, and all of his comics really, where he'll set something up and you'll be like, oh, I know where this is going. Like, I mean, if anyone's listened to any of our podcasts before, we're always wrong. Like we throw everything at the wall. And to have read the series in its entirety from the comic book, and then to watch the show and still be shocked and excited and like the whole team did such a fantastic job of making it for the readers too, you know, and new fans. So what was your biggest surprise, would you say?
The funniest one is the only time that I ever like took out my phone and messaged somebody while I was watching it was the very beginning of the first episode, because we had theorized so much about John Hamm and Steve, and it's a fake name.
Steve,
he's Conquest or he's Thrag. That's it. It's going to be one or the other. And that it starts with John Hamm, and even the captions on the screen just saying Steve. I immediately just took my phone out and messaged Ryan in like all caps, like, oh my God, it's Steve. I can't believe it. Like, there's so many shows that I think could have done that, and then the episode comes out and people will be disappointed, be like, oh, they were kind of teasing that maybe this could be something bigger, or fan theories got away with it. I think that happened a little with WandaVision, right? Of like people hyping up things and creating theories, but the show delivered so much and was so good anyways that even though so many of my theories were wrong, I was never disappointed. I was never like, oh, I wish they would have done this, because every episode I had so many things that I was like delighted by and wanted to talk to people about how awesome this was and how it was different, but how it's informing things that happen later. And yeah, it was just fantastic.
Yeah. I think, weren't you like one of the first people to tweet like Steve? I remember you being like the first person that was like, John Hamm is Steve. Who's Steve? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I think when they announced that, I replied to it and I said, Steve, that's a weird way to spell conquest.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Trying to be sarcastic about it. And when the episode came out, I almost like quote tweeted that again, and just with like an LOL, I was like, nah, I don't want to spoil that I was wrong to everyone. Like, they know I was wrong.
Nice. So we talked about like the surprise John Hamm, like, you know, we were obviously expecting more, but I think it was great with his son and everything too. Who was your favorite character on the show? maybe that differed from the comic. So who's your favorite character from the comic, would you say?
I mean, yeah, Mark is always the easy answer, right? Because he's the character we get to like grow with. I feel like in this like time period of the show, in the early parts of the story, Nolan was such a fun character to watch throughout the show because they did so much with him it felt like every one of his lines had a double meaning. It had the like surface level meaning for people who've never read the comic, and it had the extra meaning for all of the comic readers who know who he really is and know what his motivations are, of him talking to Mark about how they have a long journey ahead and how like he needs to be able to do, make the difficult choices. And all of that was so cool because my parents, as they're watching the show, would just think of this as like that's how Superman would talk to his kid about how they, he's going to have important superhero stuff to do in the future. But everyone who's read it just sits there and is like, yeah, totally. That's all. That's the only reason he's saying that. Yeah, definitely keep watching. Like, all of that stuff was so much fun. So I definitely, I would say he's one of my favorite characters of like this time period, but I also love all the stuff they did with Cecil and with Debbie, like all of their stuff that was different from the comic that either just wasn't in the comic at all. Like all of Debbie trying to find out, and her having like some suspicions about Nolan, and that, tension that they built with her slowly piecing things together. And then all of the stuff with like Cecil and Damien Darkblood was so cool because it kind of told you who Cecil was in a way that we really don't find out until later in the comic, right? Like we get more layers of his character as the story goes on, and they found really cool ways to introduce that in earlier parts of the story. Yeah,
that's what you bring up a good point. Like, so I think it was the first or the second episode. It was the second episode, obviously, where Damien Darkblood comes in to the headquarters and Cecil tells everybody to leave. And there's this demon character that is magical and a demon, and Cecil threatens him. And even Damien Darkblood is kind of like, oh, fuck. All right. Well, I better leave then because Cecil's telling me to leave. And that's great. Like, without, it being exposition and fear this guy, this Cecil guy, like we had characters kind of make us feel that way without needing the exposition.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I was super surprised with Walton Goggins too. Like at first I didn't like it because I had an expectation of what Cecil sounded like in my head.
Yeah.
And he fucking killed it, man. He like, by the end of it I was like, episode 7 for sure, in my opinion, he was the MVP. Like, absolutely. So
that scene in episode 7 is one of my favorite things that wasn't in the comic at all, is when he's teleporting in and basically going toe to toe with Omni-Man and just like bouncing around and stuff like that, and is calm the whole time and never really shows that he's afraid, and is just, it's so good. And it's the whole, especially episode 7, basically that whole episode's not from the comic. So I was just watching that, just being like, all of this is new, and I'm feeling tense the whole time, even though I know like they're not going to radically change things. It's not like they're going to, but yeah, that's, I think one of the most surprising things too, is that every time an episode ended, the stuff that I wanted to like talk to my friends about the most, or talk to people about the most, was the stuff that wasn't in the comic, which I was so surprised by, that was the stuff that got me the most excited. Like, I still obviously loved all the moments that feel like they were just picked right out of the comic, but all of the new stuff, they just nailed so well. And it definitely just showed that the team working on it knew who these characters are. And even though it's new material, it's true to who all the comic fans know those characters are.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, we don't get anything from being like, oh yeah, that part, it was in the comic. Like, that's not a fun thing to talk about. You know, that totally just makes us sound pretentious, but there was so much for us to fucking talk about that we hadn't seen. And it's just, oh God, like talking about it now. How many times have you watched it through and through?
I mean, I've taken a break from it after, like, definitely when it came out, it was sort of just like on rotation. Whenever there was nothing on, I'd be like, well, just let it run again or whatever, and have it on in the background. So definitely, I couldn't say for sure how many times, because it just kind of was on in those first few. It's been a few weeks since I've watched it again, but I'm excited to kind of go back to it and revisit it.
Yeah, me too. It's definitely been a while, because I mean, we fucking lived that shit forever, you know, but it's been long enough to where I'm like itching, especially talking about it now, like to go back and watch those parts. So did your parents actually watch it?
Yeah, so they did. I really wasn't sure if they were going to, because the first time I like kind of pitched it to my parents, my dad was just like, so it's a cartoon, like it's and I was like, it is, but it's not for kids. I was like, give it the first episode, see what you guys think. Like there's and I told them, I was like, there's kind of a mystery to be had, so like watch the first episode and see what you think. And then he just texted me, I think after they watched it, like, okay, you were right. This wasn't for kids. It's really good. We're excited to watch it. And then the next time I saw them, I think he's just like, man, I really like that monster girl. She's so cool. Like, I want to learn what her story was. And that was one of the moments where I was just like, I can't believe my dad's talking to me about Monster Girl right now.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't make sense. Why? It was so bizarre and so cool. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What did your mom think?
She was the same way, where she was just really excited about it. She's doesn't like the gore as much. Like I remember watching Walking Dead with them when it was premiering, and she would be like looking away at any of the gore. So she was like, it's a little gory, and she wasn't quite as into that as maybe like me or my dad or some of my friends were. But yeah, she still enjoyed it all the way through and was asking about like, they're making season 2, right? It was like, yes, they are.
Awesome. And 3 and 4 and 5. Man, Koba. Sorry, my dog's going crazy right now. So hopes for the future. Like what are your hopes and like what do you want to see in season 2? Like what are you thinking that we're going to see?
I mean, I feel like they've already started to tease like a little bit of Angstrom just in some of the like interviews or things that Kirkman has said, right? Where he's definitely teased that. I feel like that's almost guaranteed. Like I can't imagine who necessarily the big villain would be unless they did that. Obviously, like I'm so excited to see Oliver and to see Nolan start to kind of turn and have that whole story start to play out, just to also see how fans of only the show react to that. Because I know you guys have mentioned it, that like they definitely show a lot more terrible things that he does in the show, and some maybe potentially irredeemable things for some people. So I'm excited for them to get to play around with that and see how they bring his redemption in through the rest of the season. And I'm hopeful too that like definitely with the animation style, like I know some people have criticized it a little bit of like certain parts not looking good as other parts. And like you can definitely tell where more time was spent on certain fight scenes than other scenes. So hopefully, you know, some of that there, whether it's budgetary or time stuff or things like that increases a little bit. But at the same time, it never really took me out of the moments. So as long as it's consistent with what we got in season 1, I'm going to be super happy.
Yeah. And we had a great talk with Jeff Allen too, and the supervising director. And it's crazy how much like revamping, retooling when it like just designing the series. And I think that we're going to get a very consistently well animated and written and directed season 2, just because I mean, it's season 1. That being said, to your point, like obviously there were some hiccups in some of the animation and some stuff was a little inconsistent, but the stuff that they did focus on was, I'm glad they did. Like there was the moments that hit really, really fucking hard. Like, you know, not even just Mark and Omni-Man fighting in the subway and like that whole scene, all of episode 8, like little scenes, not little scenes, but in episode 7, like Omni-Man, when the guards, like when they unstealth, you know, like all of that stuff. Like if that was done a little less perfectly, I would be sad, but it wasn't, you know, the shit that like them just talking and floating there. I'm like, okay, whatever. It's a fucking cartoon. You know what I mean? Like, how are they going to make that interesting? But yeah, no, great. So do you think that we're going to get Oliver in season 2?
I mean, I feel like we will, if only for the reason that I don't think that they'll go an entire season without bringing Nolan back in some way.
And like if they show Nolan, then they have to show,
Yeah, I could see them even holding it until like the finale, and having like that last episode be that he shows up there. And maybe we won't necessarily get Oliver yet, that maybe the finale could just be, you know, that page of him opening and seeing that he's there, and then they leave it on sort of like a cliffhanger, especially that they know they're getting season 3 now. They could definitely leave it on a cliffhanger, so that it could be that way. I think it's likely, part of the reason I think it's likely is because like they pulled so many storylines that happen after the fight with Omni-Man and put them earlier, that there's not as much now that's in between when he fights Nolan and then when he eventually finds him again. Like, there's not as many big stories, that I could still see them doing the same thing and maybe taking some later stories and pulling them in and kind of putting them before it. But yeah, I think I'm like 50-50 on whether or not we'll actually get to Oliver.
I think that, first of all, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they pulled things from like way later in the comic, just from what we saw in season 1. Like they can absolutely jam pack season 2 with stuff and make it a lot more cohesive than the comic kind of was. But I think that the creators of the show will want Nolan to be a surprise. They will make it so it's like, is Nolan gonna fucking show up? Like, is he in the show or is he just gone? Like, and I feel like you have to get through the halfway of the show to make people settle into like, okay, Omni-Man's not coming back, and then boom, he's coming back. Yeah. That being said, I feel like they could go for a double whammy. I feel like they could go like, oh, boom, here's Nolan on this planet, and then boom, he had another kid, and Mark has a brother. And I feel like it could end like that. And because, to your point, season 3 is absolutely coming, so they can really fucking just leave that on the table and be like, all right, season 3's coming.
Well, and especially like, at least what I think a lot of people enjoyed about the finale too is that the crazy fight between Mark and Omni-Man, and it's hard for me to think of another fight from the comic that in a way tops that, unless they decide to go all the way in like the finale of season 2 and have the 2 Viltrumites show up, where now it's a like 4-person Viltrumite fight that while they're protecting Oliver and things like that, like that I could see as a finale. Like it feels like a finale of a season. And so in terms of how they top, you know, the finale of first season, that makes sense to me. But at the same time, like, it's John Hamm was Steve. I always remind myself anytime I start predicting something, John Hamm was Steve. Like, just remember that.
And then you instantly feel humble about everything. You're like, all right, never mind. I'm wrong. I know I'm wrong about this. Nice. Well, Wyatt, is there anything you want to bring to the table before we sign off? And you got a lot to talk about. I mean, you're kind of a famous guy now, so.
I know. Somebody was like, man, enjoy being famous. And I was like, yeah, you know, if only they paid you for more Twitter followers, that you know, that would be great. Or retweets and things like that. That would be awesome. No, man, not much. Thank you guys for having me on the show now, but obviously all the times that you feature my music and stuff like that, and just give me free ad space all the time for my music. So
happily, man. Like, you know, not only is your stuff like great, like I'll have all of my music on random when we're in the car, and we were driving to Cape Cod just a few weeks ago, and your music came on, and I started it out in my head, and Remy, my 6-year-old, was in the backseat. She's like, what is this? I'm like, this is motherfucking Wyatt Layne. I didn't swear, but I was like, this is Wyatt. This is our good friend Wyatt.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. So like, have you had a lot more followers on Twitter after everything kind of happened with the Machine Head thing?
There was definitely a bump, and I feel like there's just been more people. Like, yeah, it's definitely gone up a little bit, not a ton. And like, my music stuff is still a hobby thing that I do on the side. Like, so I only have, you know, so much that I'm ever really putting out. Like, I do 1 new track a month usually, so with little things here in between. So I definitely saw a spike go up, and it's been really cool just to be able to like have a few different people react or different people reach out, you know, seeing if they could use stuff in their YouTube video and stuff like that. So it's been super awesome. It's been nice to, and that's really like half the reason that I post stuff and that I still like make sure to release my stuff on a monthly schedule, is that's what I enjoy, is getting to like collaborate with other people, like collaborating with you guys, getting other people who reach out and want to use it for some video or something like that. So yeah, It's been awesome.
Well, how can people get a hold of you if they're interested?
So I am Wyatt Layne on Twitter, and then SoundCloud and YouTube are Wyatt Layne Music. And then I have 3 different albums that are on Apple Music and Spotify and iTunes and pretty much I think everywhere where you can buy music online. But yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and guys, like definitely hit up Wyatt. Like he's a cool guy. You know, if ever there's a project that you're working on, like hit him up for a commission. You know, I couldn't say enough how awesome your stuff is and how glad we are, Ryan, myself, and TJ, to have you be really a part of the Invincible podcast and also Circle Guy News.
That's right.
official in universe. Wyatt Layne is the Circle Guy News. Wrote the music. So it's been great, you know, getting to know you more and getting to know your music and having you be a part of this whole journey with us. So thank you. And it's been great to have you on the show again.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Absolutely. And same, like the fact that I started listening to you guys and ended up becoming friends with you guys just from writing into the show because I loved Invincible. So the fact that, you know, you guys let me be a part of the podcast and help, you know, give music for you guys that you guys get to use is awesome. So I'm thankful right back at you.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Well, thanks again for being on the show again, Wyatt Layne.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
And we're back. Thank you guys so much, Wyatt, Devin, and Vince. You guys have been great. If you guys want to go give them a follow over on Twitter, that's where we stay in touch with them. You can go find Devin Barry, Let's Talk Invincible, and Wyatt Layne over there. Thank you guys so much for doing that. That's just so cool that you guys are coming back on to talk with us, and we're hoping to do that again. You know, maybe not next month, but soon, because this was a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
So if you want to be a part of the show, email us at theinvinciblepodcast@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We'll be back in a few weeks. Well, at least for Oblivion Song on July 16th for that issue. I don't remember the issue number.
Issue 32. It comes out the 14th
That's right.
of July.
So we'll be doing an episode then. If you're hearing this, there should be a archive live stream of us talking to Kyle Higgins all about our appearance. That's right, our appearance in a comic book in Radiant Black issue 5.
And it was really good. It was really good.
It was
really good.
I can't believe you said that one thing, Bill. Like, geez.
Yeah, it was. I can't even like fathom what
are you
like
thinking?
where it came from. I don't know.
So thanks again to Wyatt Layne, of course, for also doing our theme song, our music, and to Cameron Kennedy, who put together our sweet new intro video. And other than that, that does it. We're out of here. Have a good one, guys.
That's it for us.
See you in a month.
I'll see you next month.
Bye guys.
Bye.
mean, we're getting into it because I was just about to ask you a question, and we got to do this on air. So, all right, we're starting now. Hey, everybody. What? Nope.
Nope. What?
Okay, we're starting.
What? Go ahead.